Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. To those of you in person, to those who are joining live streaming, and to our Catalina community. Let me get to the right page here. Okay. We will have our student board member, and I neglected to check with her, Member Nwala, lead us in a pledge. At this time, I'll ask our legal counsel to take roll and establish a quorum.
Member Lopez.
Present.
Member Otto.
Here.
President Craighead.
Here.
Member Benitez.
Here.
Vice President Miller.
Here.
And Board Member Nwala.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's agenda. The board took action on the following items. On item 3.1, on a motion made by Member Benitez and seconded by Member Lopez, the board voted 5-0 to approve the expulsion of student ID number 201115800. The student will be eligible to apply for readmission after January 25th, 2027. On item 3.3, the board discussed some lateral transfers for administrators, but took no reportable action. And I will ask Dr. Ahn to provide further details.
Thank you, President Craighead. At 5:35 this evening, the administrative tracker that shows our lateral movement will be posted to our Long Beach Schools website.
I'd just like to add, too, this is a unique year in that tonight we have no promotions. All of the administrative assignments are transfers, and that is significant to us. For more than 2 decades, we have always had promotions, but because of reductions in central office management positions, as well as some of the enrollment-based changes tonight, these are all lateral changes and no promotions.
Thank you for that clarification. Next, we have adoption of the agenda as posted.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Our student board member with a preferential vote?
I apologize. Aye.
Thank you, that passes, oh, see, I spoke out of turn. That passes 5-0 with a preferential vote. Let's see, yes. Now we have our student representative from Cabrillo, Kyra Taumaloto. Taumaloto?
Yes, Kira Tepa Taumaloto.
Is that good? Well, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Baker, board members, fellow JAGs, and LBUSD guests. My name is Kira Ashley Tepa Taumaloto, and I am the Associated Student Body President at Cabrillo High School. It is my distinct privilege to stand before you all tonight. I am incredibly proud to make my second appearance before this board to represent my school once again, and to share all the remarkable things here happening at Cabrillo. Before I begin, I would like to express my greatest gratitude to Principal Nguyen and my ASB Director, Mr. Gonzalez, for giving me this immense opportunity tonight. I would also like to thank my family, who is right behind me, for supporting me in everything I set my mind to, which has led me to where I am today. Over the past 10 months, our campus has functioned with a clear objective to maximize specialized industry knowledge while building a stronger, more supportive community both inside and outside our classroom walls. What makes Cabrillo truly special is that all of these successes are what shape us into a real community. Whether it is through academics, the creative arts, or our work beyond the classroom, our campus ensures that every single student fits in somewhere. From the engineering labs to community mentoring, there is a place for everyone to belong, and it is that collective sense of belonging that drives our achievements here at Cabrillo. We see this directly within our career-focused pathways, which experienced immense growth this year. Tonight, I am proud to officially present HEART, our newly launched health/medical pathway, which stands for Healthcare Education and Response Training. Set to fully open for the upcoming school year, its foundation is already being built through the student-led Healing Hearts Club, chaired by Senior Class President Samantha Rodriguez. Samantha and her team have already established outreach visits with our local middle schools to run mentoring sessions to support the transition from middle school to high school. This momentum carries right into our Cabrillo engineering design pathway. Our CED drone soccer teams traveled to Daytona Beach, Florida for the U.S. Drone Soccer National Championship, where they achieved a historical success by securing both first and fourth place in the nation. Our Cabrillo drone soccer team is now the United States drone soccer team. Digital art seniors in our specialized Academy of Computer, Media, Arts, and Animation, also known as SACMA, demonstrated elite technical proficiency at the Museum of Latin American Arts Annual Student Film Festival, where we earned both second and third place overall against specialized programs across the region. Our Cabrillo Academic of Law and Justice, also known as CalJ, expanded its practical civic training by hosting a massive campus-wide Cabrillo Laws Day, where students engaged in a courtroom simulation and mock trials alongside visiting regional attorneys and judges. This real-world exposure directly mirrored the work of Global Logistics AGL Pathway, in which we are celebrating 10 years with the Port of Long Beach partnership. This semester, we launched a formal partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters, where 20 Cabrillo students underwent rigorous training to become peer mentors. Every Tuesday from February through May, these dedicated Jaguars spent their afternoons mentoring local elementary school students at Garfield Elementary School. Back on campus, student leadership and our diverse departments focused heavily on community engagement, equity, and life-saving readiness. Our sports medicine trainer, Kagan Kazmar, worked directly with our students to host certificate clinics, resulting in numerous Cabrillo students obtaining their official CPR certifications. In May, we were incredibly honored to host the second annual AAPI Heritage Festival, filling our spaces with vibrant student cultural performances, live music, and incredible artwork submitted by students all across LBUSD. Just a few weeks later, on May 28th, we hosted another second annual Night of the Arts, displaying hundreds of students' visual projects and a unique ceramics collaboration that brought elementary doodles to life as 3D sculptures. Finally, to ensure our parents are true partners in these achievements, our counseling department hosted bilingual financial aid and college readiness workshops to guide families step by step through FAFSA and DREAM Act submissions. These achievements from this school year reflect a steady, unified expansion of our career-focused tracks, student-led mentorships, and community outreach. On behalf of the entire Jaguar student body, thank you for your continued allocation of resources, your steady guidance, and your unwavering belief in our potential. Because of your support, Cabrillo High School continues to succeed. Thank you.
Very impressive. Thank you for that report. So did you mention any of your own personal plans for next year?
Oh, I did not. So for next year during this fall, I have committed to Cal State University Long Beach.
Very
yes.
nice.
And thank you. And I will be majoring in pre-bio. on a pre-med track. Yes.
Well, well, we wish you all the luck and great success in your future. For now, we're going to invite you up so we can do a photo, so we'll take a brief pause while we do that. So Kyra, come
Thank
on
you
up
so
here. Bring Mom too, and your principal. And Kyra, I neglected to ask you who else was here to support you. I know you have a couple of other people to acknowledge.
Yes, so I am here, obviously, as you can see, my mother. This is my mom, Kathy Teppa, and thank you. And she's also accompanied by my sister, Kiara Teppa. Thank you.
And you have your principal also?
Oh, yes, and my principal, Nguyen, and my ASB director, Mr. Gonzalez, here to support me.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for being here. It's always wonderful to hear directly from our students.
Thank you so much.
And we know we're going to see your little sister in no time.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on the agenda, we have recognitions, acknowledgements, and reports. So I believe we have a video, so I'll
My name is
direct our
Kat
attention.
Tasea, and I'm the teacher librarian at Cabrillo High School. I've been really fortunate to be a teacher librarian at the K-5 level for many years, and in the last 5 at the high school level. A teacher librarian's role is really unique. We design different lessons for students to either share and show their work, to research from, and bring those resources together for students and staff. It's humbling to have received the honor a second time because I know that I have a lot of other colleagues who are working just as hard to make an impact for their students and their campus. Right now, we're currently partnering with Long Beach Public Library, and so we have some of our students that have designed a teen conversation club for our multilingual learners. And so I help to facilitate those students to create lessons and games to get some of our second language learners speaking and feeling confident with conversations. So that happens here as well. It's a most unique place on campus because it services the entire school campus in a variety of ways, both academically and socially.
And next, we have our student board member report.
Thank you, President Craighead. So this past Sunday, I had the honor of being recognized alongside many peers at Long Beach Unified's 4th annual Black graduation. The celebration was truly wonderful, honoring not only the intellect of Black students, but also their creativity, their curiosity, their leadership, resilience, and overall excellence. We also had the opportunity to witness some of our peers being awarded scholarships by a local D9 chapter in collaboration with the Bridge Builders Foundation. We also celebrated college acceptances of our peers to Yale, USC, Howard, Hampton, UCLA, UC Davis, and so much more. It was beautiful to witness and be part of a celebration of such wonderful accomplishments of our graduates that took 4 years of immense hard work. So congratulations to the class 2026.
So, Member Nwala has been our student board member for this school year, and it's hard to believe that we've come to the end of the school year, and it's hard to believe that we won't have you at the end of the dais here, to provide your input and everything else. But I want to take this time to just acknowledge the work, the contributions that you have provided, not just for the board, but for the district as a whole. You've been a very involved student. You've been a model student in a lot of ways, which is wonderful. Which is wonderful to see. I've had the opportunity to see you at your own school campus and how you conduct yourself there, the leadership skills that you have, how you lead with grace and strength. And I just want you to know that you're going to be missed, but we do have a small token of our appreciation for you. And so I'd like to present you with this plaque. It has a picture of Member Nwala with the rest of the board. And so please accept this plaque. So I'd like to invite the other board members if they'd like to acknowledge Member Nwala as well.
I'll kick us off here with the affirmations here in regards to just how great you've been as an embodiment of our school district. What I mean by that is that you were not here just to listen to the big decisions of administrative staff, but you have made yourself an integral part of the conversation. You have continuously added a perspective of student understanding of what's going on our campuses, and that is exactly what we wanted from this student board member perspective. And so, honestly, I throw around the term superstar maybe a little freely here, but with you in particular, I truly mean it. As obviously you are smart, you are capable, and I am so excited to see what the future holds for you. So once again, thanks again for everything you've been for not just our board, but for the entire district, because your perspective has been an integral one.
Member Nwala, sorry for embarrassing you last week at our retirement celebration, but I'll share the same thing that I shared at that retirement celebration. So personally, just very grateful for you both centering student voice yourself, but for reminding us as a board and as a district that without student voice, really we're not fulfilling our whole responsibilities here as school board members. So thank you. I think you've set the bar extremely high, not just for student school board members, for all school board members. So we appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to hearing about all the continually amazing things that you'll bring in all your future endeavors. But wonderful job, appreciative of you as a colleague, as a student, and as a constant reminder for what it means to center student voice and to affirm it here on the dais. Thank you.
Oh, Dr.
I
Baker.
just want to add a couple of details. So Student Board Member Ndwala mentioned the awards at the Black graduation. She was a recipient of a special award, an Outstanding Senior Award for her school. In addition to that, she's been accepted to multiple colleges, and maybe you want to tell about your decision. I will share that she has received a presidential 4-year scholarship from
California State University of Long Beach.
which is a very, very special scholarship. So we have so much to be proud of that you will not share about yourself, but that we can be proud of you.
So I want to add my congratulations too, and how important it's been to have you on this board. I've watched you grow. I've watched you become a full-fledged member of the board and a real contribution and to help us understand student voice. And you started off slow, but you become not only a full member of the board, but somebody that we've all learned to respect and look forward to knowing about your activities in the future. Thank you.
Phenomenal job representing students. You're smart, you're kind, incredibly professional. You raised the bar, as my colleagues have said. And, I really loved having you on the board and seeing you in all the events. I could go to events, and there you are. So very present with the community. You're going to go far. And we're just so proud that you were with us, and we get to say that you are part of this journey.
Thank you all so much. Those was all very heartwarming messages. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's not easy, but we're going to go ahead with the business of the meeting, and that leads us to the public hearing. So that's agenda item number 11. So at this time, we will open the public hearing for the 2026-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan. Mr. Riel, just for some clarification, should I take one item at a time and see if we have any speakers?
Yes.
Okay, so for the LCAP, do we have any speakers?
No, we do not.
Okay, so item 11.2, the 2026-2027 budget. Do we have any speakers?
No.
And item 11.3, initial bargaining proposal from the Long Beach Unified School District to the California School Employees Association, Chapter 2, Unit A and Unit B. And for documentation in the agenda, it's items 15.10 to 15.13. And do we have any speakers?
No.
Okay, so seeing that we have no speakers for those public hearing items, I declare the hearing closed. And we move on to public testimony, and this would be for items on the agenda. Do we have speakers?
We have one speaker for items on the agenda, Kat Tasia.
Good evening. Hope I didn't start. After reviewing the Thought Exchange and LCAP presentation on May 18th, I wonder why there is no mention of libraries on slides 9 through 11. The topic word cloud displayed libraries and librarians 4th and 13th of most mentioned topics. 10 of the 15 highest rated responses are read as follows. Number 1, please use money to our wellness centers and libraries full-time because people with mental illness need support and books from the library. Number 5, Extremely disappointed with the cutbacks proposed. No librarian, no wellness center, little options for clubs, taking away social workers. Terrible. Number 6, full-time library and full-time wellness center. Number 7, libraries, college and career centers, wellness centers. Number 8 of the top 15 are library and wellness center. Number 9, robust library services with a diverse selection of materials where students feel safe, welcome, and represented. Number 11, librarians, counselors, and gate education. Number 14, counselors, library, speech therapists, RAP program, psychologist, teacher aide. And number 15, library education program. These are direct quotes from the highest rated thoughts from the Community Thought Exchange. So I encourage all of you to select the live link to the Thought Exchange and review that word cloud and information and ask why this community information was not presented on the Thought Exchange LCAP slides on May 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to public testimony on items not listed on the agenda.
We have 13 speakers for not on the agenda.
Okay.
The first one will be Linda Usman, followed by Dorian Usman.
My name is Linda Usman, and I'm here to follow up on the public comment I made on March 18th regarding an incident involving my son and a staff member on campus. The day after public comment, I received multiple calls from the district. When I was finally able to answer, I spoke with Mr. Moraga. At the time, I was unavailable to have a full conversation, so he offered to call me back, which he did. During that conversation, I explained my concerns regarding the staff member who made a comment about my son's weight. Mr. Moraga then asked whether I had heard the staff member's side of the story. I was surprised by the question and asked why that was relevant. He explained that he wanted me to have the additional context regarding the incident. According to the explanation I was given, my son had been walking around with his stomach pushed out, and the staff member responded by saying, "It looks like you've gained weight." Regardless of the circumstances, I do not believe there is an appropriate justification for a staff member making comments about a student's body or weight, especially in front of other students. My son was embarrassed, hurt, and humiliated by the experience. I asked Mr. Moraga directly whether this explanation was intended to justify the staff member's behavior. He stated that it was not, and that he was simply providing context. However, I left the conversation feeling that the seriousness of the issue was being minimized rather than addressed. What continues to disappoint me is the perception that concerns raised by parents about inappropriate staff behavior are not being taken seriously. Over the years, I have been involved with this campus and have witnessed significant changes in the school climate. I have heard concerns from staff regarding how morale is low and fears of retaliation when speaking up about the problems. I have also observed increased frustration among teachers regarding student discipline and accountability. My purpose in speaking today is not simply to revisit one incident. It is to ask the district to take concerns from parents, students, and staff seriously and to foster a culture of professionalism, accountability, and respect. Students learn from examples set by the adults around them. If we expect students to treat others with dignity and face appropriate consequences for their actions, then the same standard should apply to everyone on campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Dorian Usman, followed by Amos Usman.
My name is Dorian Nussman. I'm a senior at Cabrillo High School in the Engineering and Design pathway, and I'll be graduating on June 11th before heading out of state to study mechanical engineering. As AEPIMF recently concluded, I want to say that I am extremely proud of my heritage. Through my father, I am Cambodian and Indonesian, and through my mother, I am Mexican. Tonight, I want to ask a simple question. Where are our cultural graduations? LBUSD often speaks about equity, inclusion, and belonging. However, as a senior, I do not always see or feel that commitment when all student groups are not celebrated equally. If some cultural graduations exist because of special grants, then why is the district not actively seeking grants and opportunities to make similar celebrations possible for other communities as well? Many adults assume that students do not see these differences, but we do. We see them every day. The district talks about Vision 2035 and preparing students for the future, but many high school students feel overlooked. Sometimes it feels as though the focus is on future students, while the need of current students are pushed aside. What is being done for the students who are about to enter college and the workforce and adulthood? My second concern is graduation requirements and scheduling. I've already completed all my graduation requirements. The only academic classes I still need are English and math, yet I am still required to fill my schedule with additional classes that I do not need in order to remain a full-time student. Meanwhile, I can be taking more college courses, working a part-time job, participating in internships, or gaining other valuable experiences. In fact, I'm already taking college credits. As shown in this OECC medallion, I earned for completing at least 12 college units. Instead of supporting the students who are ready to move forward, these requirements can limit opportunities for growth and career preparation. I ask the board to consider whether current policies are truly serving students' best interests. If equity, inclusion, and college and career readiness are priorities, then students should see those values reflected not only in district statements, but also in district actions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Amos Usman, followed by Dr. Kim Tabari.
Good evening. My name is Amos Usman, and I would like to continue the conversation raised by my wife regarding accountability and concerns that my families have observed at Cabrillo over the years. My family has been part of the Cabrillo community for 7 years. During that time, we have seen many dedicated staff members who worked hard to support students and families. However, we have also experienced and observed what feels like ongoing bullying behaviors from parts of the administration and concerns from parents that we feel are not being taken seriously or addressed appropriately. We are especially concerned about the treatment of Mr. Gonzalez, our ASB director. Many parents feel that he has demonstrated strong leadership, dedication, and a clear vision for student engagement. Through his presentation at school site council meetings and the work he has already accomplished on campus, he has shown a strong commitment to students and families. We believe he should be supported and given the opportunity to continue building that work. Mr. Gonzalez has also helped create meaningful opportunities for parent involvement. For example, the Cinco de Mayo Salsa competition for Teacher Appreciation Week, organized with Ms. Gallegos, brought families together and strengthened our sense of community. Events like these help parents feel more connected and included on campus. I also would like to recognize Ms. Gallegos, the Parent Involvement Specialist. The Parent Center is an important resource for families, and many parents strongly supported keeping this open. Ms. Gallegos has built trusting relationships with families and consistently make parents feel heard and respected. As a bilingual mother herself, she connects with many families in meaningful ways and helps bridge communication between parents and the school. Both Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Gallegos have made a positive impact on a campus that serves a predominantly Hispanic community. Their work has strengthened parent involvement and helped families feel valued. I encourage the district to support staff who foster inclusion, engagement, and strong relationships with families. Lastly, we are aware that we are losing facilitator positions, but the few parent involvement specialists that remain were here and a necessity even before COVID happened. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Dr. Kim Tabari, followed by Jerlene Tatum.
So I had asked to share this during the acknowledgement section, so this isn't really a public comment, but a farewell letter to Dr. Baker, so it's consider it part of the acknowledgement on the calendar, which I did email a request about, but never heard back. Good evening, everyone. This is a farewell letter to Dr. Baker. It is never easy to separate the person from the position. Dr. Baker, you have made a meaningful impact on our community. When I first met you on Zoom in 2020 and asked for your support for Black students during all the racial reckoning that was happening across the country, you did not hesitate. That moment stayed with me. It was one of many times you showed up with courage, openness, and a sincere willingness to listen. We recognize the immense scrutiny that comes with being a new female superintendent, and we also know that at times that scrutiny was not just about leadership, but about bias as well. When you took on the challenge of closing the achievement gap for Black students, you faced resistance from many directions. Some were afraid of what it meant to truly lean into Black student success. But you leaned in, you stayed the course. You challenged staff, administrators, and even community members to think more deeply and act more boldly. What we have appreciated most is that you led from a place of kindness and compassion with a genuine understanding of our children's needs. You understood that when Black children were asked what they needed most, many said they needed a caring adult who will truly listen. Through your Superintendent Advisory Group, Vision 2035 anchored in liberatory design and lens of systemic oppression framework, and many other efforts, you helped create spaces that are kind, that kind of care could grow. We have had numerous conversations, and in each one you listened and you challenged us. You agreed to some of our requests and pushed back on others. Through it all, you stayed present, and that presence mattered. And as Octavia Butler said, all that you touch, you change. Long Beach has been forever changed by your touch, your leadership, and your heart. Your departure is a real loss for the district as we prepare for what comes next. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your service, your commitment, and your willingness to engage in honest and meaningful conversation. Thank you for modeling what it means to be a dedicated leader who leads with love for community and backs that love with concrete data and action to help our children move towards a brighter future. From the 4 Black graduation celebrations to all the community events, Sankofa meetings, and so much more, you consistently show up, greet families, and build real connections. We wish you quiet days, abundant joy, deep peace, and continued laughter in your next chapter with deep appreciation on behalf of our community. Thank you.
Next is Jerlene Tatum, followed by Bobby Jones.
Jerlene Tatum. I want to begin by saying, Naza, you are the epitome of Black excellence. It has been such an honor and a privilege to watch you this past school year, and I wish you nothing but greatness. And thank you so much for blessing this space with your beautiful energy and your wonderful smile. All right. I want to say congratulations to Board Member Maria Isabel Lopez on a successful re-election campaign. Thank you for being fearless and advocating for the community. And also thank you for attending the 4th annual Black graduation celebration this past Sunday on May 31st. Although the celebration was a beautiful affair, it was very disappointing that only one board member attended. It was not attended by the president of the board, nor the black board member of the board. Your absence was duly noted. Our black school board member has not attended a single black student-focused event. But I guess, hey, for consistency, I guess that's all that matters. Yet the absence from the black graduation left me with a question. Do black students matter, or do they only matter when you are sitting at the dais talking about your goals and guardrails? Also, we are still waiting to learn why the community meeting scheduled for May 26 was canceled, a meeting that had been in the planning process for over a year.
Thank you.
Next is Bobby Jones, followed by Jamie Valianos.
Good evening, afternoon, everyone. My name is Bobby Jones. I am here on behalf of my nonprofit called Grow, Unwind, Connect. I stand here in front of you as your neighborhood yoga dealer. I'm a yoga teacher. But before I became a yoga teacher, I was a professional basketball player. I graduated from Long Beach Poly, 2002. I'm from Compton, but I like to say I'm from planet Earth. After that, I went to the University of Washington, played 4 years there. I graduated with my bachelor's in writing. I love storytelling. And then I got drafted to the NBA. I played on 6 teams, Sixers, Nuggets, Grizzlies, Rockets, Spurs. And then I moved to Italy for 12 years where I played over there. I moved back here almost 5 years ago, back to all you Americans, and I'm very excited to be back to the rat race and the programming. But hey, we all have to transition. And that's when I fell in love with yoga. 5 years ago, I took the discipline from basketball and I put it into my yoga practice. From there, I did teacher's training, and from there, I created my nonprofit. So I teach at gyms in Long Beach at Iconic. I sub at Yogalution. My daughter's a freshman at Cal State Long Beach. And so I'm in Long Beach a lot more. But I was in Venice Beach quite a bit, practicing there. And now I do after-school programming with Compton Unified School District. So with all 21 K through 8 schools, I do wellness after-school programming. We teach them not just yoga. Yoga is a component of wellness, but breath work, goal setting, all the things that I accomplished in my life now, I get to mentor and make it like a full circle moment. I also have a yoga children's book I put out over a year ago that I use as curriculum. So again, I got to use all my passions growing up and even as an adult, and I got to put into my nonprofit. So I'm here because I have some brochures to give out. I also do retreats every summer in Italy, July 25th to the 30th. Yes, I go back 3-4 times a year. I got to go back. But I also turned it into a service because, again, people need to leave the program in the rat race to reset and recharge, and not just families and students and athletes, but teachers and school officials. So I purposely planned it in July because I know that's like the dead month. But yeah, I have some flyers as well. It's at a private villa. It's amazing. It's not too spiritual, it's not too bougie, but it's right in the middle. But as I said, I'm here because I would love to bring some of my programming into Long Beach. I do it in Compton. I reached out to Linwood. I'm going to all different school districts. So just putting that energy out into the universe. And like I said, I'm already in Long Beach. I do stuff at gyms and studios and hopefully working with the men's and women basketball team at Cal State Long Beach too. So I'm here to be of service. Of course, I'm not free, but again, I pour into my passion and my passion pays me. So a lot of people don't have that blessing, but I put the work in, and once you look through my brochures, you will see that. So thank you. I wish you all an amazing rest of your day. If you want to come Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. at Iconic in Long Beach, I'll give you a guest pass. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Jamie Valianos, followed by Kat Tasea.
Smaller folk. Good evening, my name is Jamie Valianos, and I have been an educator for 30 years. Each month, I've been coming here expressing my own opinions about the cuts to our district's library services. Today, on my way to work, I heard something on NPR that directly supports the need for information literacy, and I decided to investigate myself. Did you know that Amazon is spending $200 billion on AI infrastructure this year alone? Google, $93 billion, Meta, $65 billion, Microsoft, $80 billion. Combined, the world's largest technology companies have poured more than $764 billion into AI since 2020. and they are projected to increase that investment by more than 60% this year. 60%. That is the world our students are growing up in, and they are largely navigating it unprepared. Teachers telling students not to use AI for their work is not enough. The district's own AI guidance document, published June 2025, acknowledges that AI detection tools are unreliable and teachers should not depend upon them. So if teachers can't rely on these tools, who fills that gap? Librarians do. California has a special certification. It's called Teacher Librarian Licensure. Information literacy is not our side project. It is our curriculum. We are the educators specifically trained and credentialed to teach students how to think critically about information. You cannot critically evaluate information and AI output if you cannot critically evaluate information in the first place. That is our expertise. That is our job. And the district is cutting these positions. That AI guidance document was published last summer. Teacher librarians were never consulted. We were never asked for input. We didn't even know it existed. We happened upon it while looking through the district website. And yet the one credentialed staff role specifically built to teach information literacy was never consulted, nor even listed as a resource. That is not a small omission. That's not an accident. It's a choice. This year, the district cut 53% of its library staff. At the same time, LBCC is launching its first bachelor's degree in library science, a program that will teach students about digital tools and applications for large language models. Our own local community college has concluded that library knowledge is more relevant than ever. They are investing in it. We are dismantling it. As the district looks toward its new superintendent, I'm asking leadership to consider the repercussions beyond the financial bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Kat Tasea, followed by Jacob Gonzalez.
Good evening. I am honored to be named Teacher Librarian of the Year, yet this recognition not only reflects my work, but also the collective impact of teacher librarians who are encouraged to serve as instructional leaders, literacy advocates, and champions for students. I've been fortunate to work alongside a lot of amazing educators and administrators that have invested in me and my work and invited me to, as a teacher librarian, to have a seat at the table. And there are people who have fully understood how teacher librarians can play a vital role in supporting students academically, socially, and emotionally, and creating those inclusive learning environments where students feel welcomed and valued and empowered to grow. Many people are unaware that teacher librarians have both teaching credentials or library credentials, or like myself, a master's degree in library science, that we design those lessons that adhere to model library standards and California content standards, reviewing district-created unit guides, while collaborating with educators to strengthen instruction, teach critical research and literacy skills, and to help students become ethical, responsible users of information. Where all library staff are passionate about ensuring equitable access to digital and print resources and innovative technology tools. We have updated collections that allow our students to see themselves reflected in what they read, while also gaining insight into the experience of others. School libraries are spaces where curiosity is nurtured, creativity is encouraged, and a love of reading and lifelong learning can flourish. As a teacher of 36 years and a teacher librarian for 26, I'll do the math at how old I am. I will continue to advocate for the essential role of school library programs, library staffing, and I remain committed to ensure that every student has access to resources, opportunities, and support that they need to thrive, both in school and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob Gonzalez, followed by Vicky Beyerbrot.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Jill Baker. We are forever grateful for your service in Long Beach Unified and are looking forward to receiving you at Cabrillo's graduation next week. I want to start by sharing a few highlights from ASB this year. We've seen strong student engagement across multiple events, including school-wide activities that brought students together in meaningful and energetic ways. It's been really encouraging to see the participation grow and to see students that take ownership of our school culture. We've also continued to build momentum in the areas like spirited events, lunchtime activities, and collaborative planning with clubs and staff. A lot of behind-the-scenes work has gone into making these experiences happen, and I want to recognize both students and staff at Cabrillo who have contributed to these efforts. At the same time, as we continue to grow in these programs, there are opportunities to strengthen some of our internal communication and coordination processes. In a few recent situations, clearer timelines and more consistent follow-up would have helped support ASB when requested. I come to you with deep concern as we continue to improve systems and ensure that student leaders and staff can work as effectively as possible together. Overall, I'm really proud of what ASB has accomplished this year, and I'm looking forward to continuing to build on that progress. I ask the board to consider prioritizing the support necessary to continuing building up Cabrillo under my program. And I just need to mention that it's so critical to keep this momentum going as we're building up Cabrillo. My commitment is still forever clear on focusing on positive student impact and community engagement. I'd like to thank everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Vicky Beyerbrot, followed by Dr. Felton Williams.
Good evening, board members. My name is Vicky Beyerbrot, and I am here this evening to address the Board of Education regarding a change in placement to a different grade level of Mrs. Cynthia Finley, a TK teacher at Lowell Elementary School. Is that me? I attended elementary, junior high, and high school in Long Beach. My children attended the same schools that I did, and I now have grandchildren attending a district school. I've been a VIP, PTA officer, and Booster Club officer, and over the years have encountered many teachers at all grade levels. Mrs. Finley has nearly 30 years of teaching experience. She was one of the original teachers for the Long Beach University, LBUSD, that piloted the TK program from 2013 to 2017. She interviewed for the TK position at Lowell 2 years ago and started there at the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. I had the pleasure of meeting Ms. Finley at the beginning of the current school year. I was immediately impressed by her and the way she interacts with both students and parents at a meet and greet that I attended with my grandson prior to the first day of school. I could tell right away that she is passionate about teaching TK. Mrs. Finley devotes hours of time outside of the classroom to her students. She schedules optional off-campus events throughout the year that provide students and parents with opportunities to connect and form friendships. I attended the classroom end-of-year party this past weekend and was extremely touched by the way she called each student up individually and spoke of their strengths and contributions. The smiles on the faces of the children and parents were priceless. A TK teacher is the first educator that students meet when starting school. It is imperative that they have a positive experience and be encouraged to learn and succeed. TK is essentially the foundation for future learning. Ms. Finley is very aptly providing that foundation despite the fact that her classroom has been out of compliance over 40% of the time during the current school year due to improper aid support. With 24 students enrolled in her classroom, there should be 2 aides all day. However, there have often been days where she has 1 or no aides available. Not only is that a concern for student learning, it is also a safety concern if something were to happen to a child. Ms. Finley has National Board Certification, which was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers. It's the highest certification that a teacher may obtain and the most respected. She was also nominated by the Long Beach Council PTA this year for Teacher of the Year for TK at Lowell Elementary. And it would be a tragic loss for future students at Lowell if they were to miss out on the opportunity to be taught by Ms. Finley. I believe she's the most qualified teacher, and there are no reasons to change her to a different grade level. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Craighead, we're closing in on our 30-minute time limit, and there are 3 speakers left.
I'm going to motion to extend public comment time to allow everyone who came to speak to give public comment.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Our student board member?
Aye.
That passes 5-0 with a preferential vote. We'll continue.
Our next speaker is Dr. Felton Williams, followed by Rachel Sauce.
Good evening, Board Member Craighead, members of the board, Dr. Baker, executive staff. I'm here to just comment briefly on the graduation, African American graduation. And by the way, that was a very wonderful tribute to Dr. Baker. Very nice. Graduation has always been extremely important to me. As a board member here for the past 16 years, and because it really represented the culmination of the work of the board, the things that we did. And it was such a joy to see the impact of our work on the students, their families, and the community. Having an event that highlights the district's black students sends a powerful message to them, their families, district staff, and the community that their preparation is very serious. In closing, I know you say it's the shortest presentation Dr. Williams has ever made. I truly appreciate the warm greetings that I received from so many of you when I walked into the room. Such a pleasure to be here and to continue to see the work of the board. And again, that graduation event was very special. So thank you all very much. And Dr. Baker, greetings to you in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Rachel Sauce, followed by Lauren Craighead.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Rachel Sass, and I'm here tonight to respectfully ask you to approve my daughter's opportunity to attend Millikan High School. My daughter has earned this opportunity through years of hard work, commitment, and excellence. She currently maintains a 3.8 GPA and has received multiple academic awards and has constantly been recognized on the principal's honor roll. She is exactly the kind of student any school would strive to have: disciplined, motivated, respectful, and determined to succeed. But what makes this especially meaningful is that her connection to Millikan did not begin this year. Since the 5th grade, she has dedicated herself to the Millikan softball program. For years, she has trained with the program, built relationships with coaches and teammates, and invested countless hours working towards the dream one day representing Millikan as both a student and an athlete. She has already shown loyalty and commitment to this school long before reaching high school age. This is not a temporary interest or a last-minute request. This has been her goal for years. As a parent, we teach our children that hard work, consistency, and dedication matters. My daughter believed that if she stayed focused academically, maintained commitment to her sport, and made positive choices, she would have the opportunity to continue the path she worked so hard to build. Tonight, I'm asking the board to recognize that effort. Students like my daughter strengthen school, and she will contribute academically, athletically, and personally to the Millikan community. She is not asking for special treatment. She is asking for the chance to continue in the environment where she has already invested years of effort, connections, and commitment. I understand there are policies and procedures that guide these decisions, but I also believe there must be room to consider the whole student, their achievements and their character, their history, and the positive impact they will bring to the campus. My daughter has proven herself through her actions, her academics, and her perseverance. I respectfully ask you to give her the opportunity she has worked towards for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Lauren Craighead.
Good evening. I'm an LAUSD teacher, but more importantly today, I'm a community member and a parent of a future Long Beach Unified student. I know you recently heard from Schools Beyond Screens, and I wish to reiterate their message. As you know, LAUSD recently approved major screen time limits across grade levels, reflecting a growing recognition that the educational field has drifted too far toward constant screen use. The American Academy of Pediatrics stresses protecting sleep, attention, real-world interaction, and unstructured play because these experiences build focus, emotional regulation, and social skills. Children cannot develop those things with an iPad in their hands all the time. Ray Bradbury warned about this dynamic decades ago in one of my personal favorites to teach, Fahrenheit 451. A culture so consumed by screens and entertainment that people gradually lose the habit of deep thinking, not through force, but through constant distraction and ease. That message feels increasingly relevant in today's classrooms. Class discussions are harder to sustain, primarily because of technology use, in particular AI, even on simple opinion-based assignments. Students are increasingly bypassing the thinking process itself, and that struggle is where critical thinking develops. Research has long proven that handwritten note-taking improves retention and reading on paper improves comprehension compared to screens. Meanwhile, increased laptop use has been associated with weaker outcomes for many students, especially those who already struggle, suggesting that screen-heavy environments may actually widen achievement gaps. At the same time, our most tech-savvy generation struggle with foundational skills beyond passive consumption. They can scroll endlessly, but typing and research, to name a few important skills, are nowhere to be found. We absolutely should teach students how to use technology, but in structured, skill-based ways and at developmentally appropriate ages. One major issue is gamified education, learning platforms built around points, animations, and constant feedback. While engaging on the surface, they condition students to expect an instant reward. We're seeing this beginning very early, even right here in Long Beach, as kindergartners are practicing math fluency with Gigi the penguin, although practicing is a term I use lightly. That is not the learning environment I would want for my daughter. Feedback should come from teachers so that our children have real relationships and feel encouraged by real people. In Hunt Gather Parent, Michaeline Duclay writes about how children build stronger intrinsic motivation when they aren't constantly driven by external rewards. But when learning is overtaken by casino-like colors and sounds, students begin working for that reward rather than for understanding. I don't expect teachers to be parents. As both, we have enough on our plates. But it takes a village to raise children, and schools are powerful parts of that village. I urge this board to look closely at what is already changing around us. Limiting screen time isn't about resisting progress, but rather protecting attention, strengthening thinking, improving learning outcomes, and ensuring students still learn how to learn.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have item number 14, reports on superintendent advisory groups. We'll start with the Business, Budget, and Policy Development Group. Dr. Benitez.
Yes, just a quick report for me, Madam Chair. So our Budget and Policy Superintendent Advisory Group is meeting with Greg Klein from the Council of Great City Schools on Monday to go over one of the items that's in a part of our student outcomes focused governance, which is a policy diet. And it's an approach to both reviewing policy, but also aligning policy and practices with our student outcomes focused approach. So more of an update to come after our meeting with a framework for us to proceed with the policy analysis, review, and alignment.
Thank you. Next, instruction and student learning supports. Member Lopez?
No report this evening.
Thank you. And Workforce Development, Member Miller.
No report this evening.
Thank you. That brings us to our consent calendar. So we'll need a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the consent calendar?
I do have a few questions. Item 15.8, number 4 and 42, we have 2 tech contracts, one for $45,000, another for $150,000. And the board approved just the last meeting, a $9 million contract over 3 years, on top of the $42 million software contract earlier this school year. Can you please elaborate on those 2 contracts, the $45,000 and the $150,000 contract?
Yes, good evening. Board Member Lopez, thank you for those questions. I'll take item 4 first and explain that one. So C3 is a local Oracle specialist contractor that assists our IT staff in supporting some of the legacy business systems. So these are the systems that we are, in fact, actively replacing through the RPM, the larger project, but for now they're still in our environment. And so they'll help us with things like operating system upgrades, patches to the system, debugging the database, error resolution, that sort of thing. So we are decreasing our reliance on this vendor, as you can see by the contract amount, but because they are so efficient and adept in our environment, we thought it was prudent to keep them on board for a short time until we get those systems fully replaced. So that was the first item with C3. I think your second question was on item 42, which is a recommendation to continue with a professional services contract with Cybertech. Cybertech's a different type of contractor. They assist us in sort of our local area networking and our data center design. And this is a vendor that's been involved in our systems for many years. So again, we are continuing to upgrade and modernize many components of our infrastructure. In this case, they might be replacing switch equipment at a school. They may be helping us implement some of our security policies, tightening things up within our environment. There's always upgrades and patches and things like that to install. So that's the type of work that Cybertech does. Again, decreasing reliance on this vendor, but we felt that it was prudent to have them on retainer to perform these types of routine upgrades. Again, network and data center.
Do you have an idea how much we spent in tech this year alone?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I'm happy to pull those numbers for you.
Thank you. I also have 15.8, number 11, the contract with core districts for $343,375 to provide the district with data-driven collaboration improvement. And I've previously raised this concern regarding contracts being awarded to organizations in which members of the district leadership sit on their board. In this instance, Dr. Baker sits on their board, and this is for legal counsel. Could you please explain once again for the public why you believe the situation does not constitute a conflict of interest under applicable law? And I know I've asked, and I know you've said before that this is not a conflict of interest, but I also like you to clarify what safeguards are in place to ensure that contracting process remains free from undue influence. I just find it very problematic, and nothing against our superintendent, but that we do have such a large contract to an organization, and by all means, nothing against the organization either. I think they do great work, but such a large contract, and our superintendent sits on their board.
As we've clarified each time you've raised this point on a core contract, this is not considered a conflict of interest. First of all, the board is the one that's approving the contract tonight, not the superintendent. So that's a board's function, not a superintendent function. Under conflict of interest code, section 1091.5 identifies what's called a non-interest. A non-interest under the government code is specifically for serving on a nonprofit organization that you're non-compensated for, which is what Dr. Baker is doing for the core districts. In addition, Dr. Baker is not involved in the contracting process. This contract comes out of research, so she's not involved in the contracting process either way. But under the Government Code Regulation 1091.5, this is considered a non-interest and therefore not a conflict of interest.
One question for me, actually, it's a request for Dr. Baker vis-a-vis our SPED team, Dr. Baker. So under consideration today in the consent calendar is the SELPA plan. And I know that we get these numbers from time to time. Can we get the current number of students with IEPs and 504 plans at whatever time you deem appropriate to get that data?
Absolutely.
And I'd like to qualify the request because I know that Ms. Takahashi is going to present to us an update regarding May revise. And I want to highlight, and I'll do it again on my board report, that although some one-time funding is going to provide one-time support that will be going to SPED, we still have an overall budget shortfall, particularly for our most underserved students. So I'd like to comment that I want our communities to stay vigilant, that just because this seems like, and it is promising short-term news regarding the budget, it doesn't address our longer-term systemic issues, particularly for our students with disabilities.
Yes. And Dr. Sosa Valderrama may be able to provide that during this meeting. Only if we can give you accurate data will we do it during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, just a notation about the SELPA plan. I'm sure as you've read it, you'll notice that this year's update is solely the budget update, which is Section D of that plan. So thank you.
That's where my question was coming from.
Makes
Dr.
sense.
Before we take a vote on this, I'd just like to thank the Century Club. They made many $2,000 donations to our middle schools for middle school sports. So thank you to the Century Club. And then also thank you to the volunteers for our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, Raul Nario and Russell Simpkin. They volunteered their time to do this, which is wonderful. So thank you. Further discussion? No? In which case, I will ask that we have a roll call vote.
Member Lopez?
It's not a conflict of interest, so I'm going to vote aye.
Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Vice President Miller?
Aye.
Student Board Member Nwala? Preferential vote? Thank you. That passes.
Thank you.
5-0.
And that was 5-0 with a preferential vote. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have item 16, staff report, the 2026-2027 LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan, and budget update. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be joined by the LCAP team, Ms. Margaret Lamb, Dr. Lucy Salazar, Carmen Hernandez, and George Tsai. I'll be kicking off this budget update and LCAP Draft 2 conversation. We are bringing these items before you for first review in advance of June 17th, when we will be asking you to approve these items. So with respect to the budget, we're just highlighting here where the budget adoption is nestled within the context of essentially a year-long budget and financial reporting process. We've actually been budgeting and projecting this year for many years as we do multi-year projections 3 or 4 years in advance. But the budgeting season really kicks off with the release of the governor's budget in January. The state revenues comprise the lion's share of our budget. So that's a very important moment for us, is the release of the January budget. That budget is revised with the May revision that just came out a few weeks ago and that I spoke about at the last meeting. And here is where we are asked to approve the district's budget and LCAP together. The state will approve its budget by June 15th, and then the governor has days to sign that budget. So we are asked to approve the district's budget in advance of the state revenues being really solidified within that state budgeting process. We have 45 days to amend the budget to the extent that there are significant changes in our revenue picture by virtue of the state budget. And then in December, we take a look at our revenues and expenditures and provide a report called the first interim report. We have the second interim report in the March timeframe. And then we have here within this budget, and that we do in June, is what we call the estimated actuals, which is really how we believe we're going to end the year. In terms of the financial reporting process, we will close the books over the summer and bring to you the unaudited actuals report, which is just essentially a report on how we did. And then our auditors will audit our financials and we will be bringing that to you in December. So it's a year-long process of reporting various reports that we'll be bringing to you on the state of the budget and various moments where we update our financial projections based on the most current information. The themes for the 26-27 budget, and we have a comprehensive memo that accompanies the budget. It is a narrative that essentially breaks down what all those numbers mean from our perspective, and so just to make it a little bit more easier and more accessible to understand what is really happening with our finances. But some themes that we want to lift up are the May revision that just came out, reflects higher than expected state revenues, but we'll caveat that by saying the long-term sustainability of the revenue levels are of concern. The budget, they are, in terms of the state economy, the state is projecting stable economic growth. But there is a large reliance on just one particular sector of the state economy that is of concern. That's the tech sector, in particular, the investment in artificial intelligence. That has really driven up personal income tax receipts. And so there is concern on just an over-reliance on a single sector of the economy. There's ongoing concerns about inflation and essentially the way in which the state has balance the budget for next year and the year following, meaning there is a considerable amount of debt and other concerning ways in which the state has essentially balanced its budget. Another way was the minimal the use of reserves, and so there's just concern about the state revenues holding in the long term and sustainability of those revenues. The district enrollment declines continue with attendance rates remaining below pre-pandemic levels. That's something that we've talked about over the past couple years, but we are still seeing enrollment declining and attendance rates that have not rebounded to pre-pandemic levels. The expenditures that are in the budget reflect the implementation of the district's fiscal stabilization plan. Even with that, year-over-year expenditures continue to rise. We must say that the budget that we have before you does not include the financial impact of the recent tentative agreement with the Teachers Association. So just know that this was published before and it's not approved yet. So those numbers are not reflected. There is a significant one-time funding that is providing general fund relief, so our unrestricted expenditures are lower because we have been able to utilize one-time restricted funding to cover those expenses. So that's really of note, as we have approximately $100 million within the next several years that we have that we will utilize for general fund relief. And just in summary, the Mayor revision improved the district's financial outlook, but the deficit spending continues into its third year. So we will be in the third year of deficit spending, despite the fact that we're getting additional revenues by virtue of the Mayor revision. So that's important to know. So this is our overall budget. This is our operating funds, 1.34 billion. We have, and that's why we talk about the general fund most of the time, is our general fund makes up the lion's share of the revenues that we receive. We also have our cafeteria fund, our nutrition program at 49.3 million. That is a very healthy fund because of the universal meals program that we've been very grateful to have and to be able to feed all students free of charge. We have our child development fund, which is our Head Start and CDC programs, as well as our adult education fund. So those are our operating funds, and the general fund being obviously the largest. And this is how our general fund revenues break down. We must note that some of these numbers are cited incorrectly in the slide, so I'll just verbally correct them. It doesn't really change the percentages or the amounts materially, but just wanted to note that these numbers here on the slide do not necessarily align to what's in the budget. We have LCFF, this says 827, it's 837 at 67.8%. Federal revenues at 54.7, it's 4.4%, as opposed to 5.8% stated here, and other state at 310.3 million at 25%. So you see that LCFF is almost 70% of the budget. We've got federal revenues at 54.7. Those are our title programs, special education funding. We've got an other state funding that includes the Extended Learning Opportunities Program, special education funding, Prop 28, and then our large block grant that we'll talk about. So LCFF comprises almost 70% of our revenues, and it's really important for us to note what the assumptions are when we are looking at LCFF and projecting out LCFF. We get funded on a base grant, and we have supplemental and concentration grant funding, and so it's really important to understand things like the cost of living adjustment that we were receiving. Those are year-to-year increases to address rising operational costs. And you'll see for next year, 4.31% cost of living adjustment. That is a COLA of 2.87% and an additional investment in LCFF of 1.44%, totaling 4.31%. And then in the out years, we have COLAs that are more, we would say, of our normal pattern, about approximately 3%. COLA has fluctuated quite a bit, but we believe that gone are the days of those like 13% COLAs that we received, like in 22-23, it was over 13%, 23-24 was 8%. So we believe that we are approaching a more normal COLA pattern, and gone are the days of these really dramatic cost of living adjustments. We are assuming annual enrollment decline between 2.3 and 3.1%. These are projections that we make based off of our student retention rates as well as birth rates in the area. In 2025, we are at 61,451. Next year, we're projecting to be at 59,651 students. So we are breaking the 60,000 mark. That's a reduction of approximately 1,800 students. And to put that number into context or perspective, 1,800 students would is an equivalent of an average, like 2 average-sized middle schools, 4 elementary schools. So just to put 1,800 students into perspective. Our attendance rate at 92%, as I said, it has not reached pre-pandemic levels. Between 95 and 96% is where we were at pre-pandemic. We have climbed up since the dark days of the pandemic, but we increased very slightly in 25, 26 based off some of the efforts of You Belong. So this is an area that we will continue to focus on, as this is a very positive, effective way of increasing revenue to the benefit of all of our students. Also, at unduplicated pupil percentage of 61.98%, so unduplicated pupil percentage, or percentage of our student body who are English learners, economically disadvantaged, foster, and homeless youth. As we noted in the memo, this percentage has gone down quite a bit. At 2018-19, we were at 70.29%, which really speaks to demographic changes that are happening within our community. And so we are really, we continue our efforts towards identification of students who are eligible in terms of these categories. We have streamlined processes, incorporated the household income form into annual enrollment processes just to capture as many students as we can in these categories. Yes. Yes. So our budget that we're bringing before you incorporates the May revision proposals, which may change ultimately, but that's the basis for our revenue assumptions. This next slide just puts the COLA that you just said, Mr. Otto, into perspective as to how much actual additional revenue we will be getting. And so because we have declining enrollment, reduction in unduplicated pupil percentages, when we look at what we're getting in terms of 4.31% for next year, the district is not actually receiving 4.31% additional revenue as opposed to this year. It's offset by declining enrollment and other factors. So for next year, it'd be 2.04% increase to revenues, even though we're getting a COLA of 4.31%. This year for 25-26, we actually receive less revenue because of declining enrollment and other factors. So it's just important to note when we talk about COLA, we're not getting all that money because of things that are happening within our district, such as declining enrollment. And just to note other revenue assumptions, the governor's May revise did include an increased base rate for special education revenue as a significant, what we consider a significant increase in special education revenue. But we must say that the funding for special education remains very inadequate to cover the costs of supporting our students with disabilities. We have over $150 million contribution from the unrestricted general fund in support of our programs for students with disabilities. So very welcome, very glad that has been proposed, but the funding is very inadequate to cover the costs of services for our students.
What was it 5 years ago that?
Right. Yeah. The contribution has gone up. The cost of services has gone up, and the funding has not gone up.
There was a reasonable amount of federal money. Are we still getting that amount, or is that even that declined?
It's about $14 million. So when you look at our special education program, it is very inadequate from the federal government, but definitely from the state.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yumi, can I speak?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we highlight, if I'm understanding Mr. Otto's question, and I think it's important for our communities to hear this, in the context of the broader budget picture. Our responsibility is to provide the highest quality services, programs, supports for all students, irrespective of what the students' different needs are. And I think we need to be clear here that this is not about us taking from this pot to do this thing. It's to provide the highest quality support, programs, and services for all students. The point here is that the revenues that we receive and will receive on these, based on this budget analysis, are inadequate to cover the actual costs, whether that's through actual present day costs or the projected increase in costs. So when we talk about restricted funds versus unrestricted funds, the unrestricted funds are primarily from LCFF funding, and there's a difference there that I'll ask Margaret to speak to when we get to that. When we look at unrestricted funds, what we get from LCFF, slightly more unrestricted funds, but it's still inadequate to actually cover the cost of educating the 61,000 students that we have here. So what I worry about is sometimes folks either intentionally or unintentionally misrepresenting what we actually get versus what it actually costs to educate students. And I worry about what folks will do with this pie chart without understanding context of what it actually costs, not divided up by, well, what does it cost for our English learners? What does it cost for our foster kids? What does it cost for our students with disabilities? No. We have 61,000 students. Here's the cost of educating that. So I hope that in the context of when we talk about budget engagement, when we talk about LCAP, that we don't unintentionally pit our sub-student groups against each other, because that should not be a concern for a parent or a community member or a caregiver. Our concern and responsibility is to make sure that all of our students get the services, the programs, the supports that they get, and the emphasis on we are inadequately funded federally, state-wise, and with grants to be able to do that with the current enrollment.
Those points. We also have an increase in one-time funding in the student support and professional development block grant. We proposed was approximately $50 million in revenue in this block grant, and with the sunset of 2029, 2030, correct? And so there's again some one-time funding, significant in that it provides some general fund relief on a short-term basis. We are spreading out this funding for as long as possible, so that we have some stability in our budget. But just know that our unrestricted expenditures over the next few years, because of such large amounts of one-time funding, are artificially low in our budget. And once that funding goes away, they will rise absent fiscal stabilization measures. We've also have federal revenues in our budget that just reflect 25, 26. We have not heard of large threats to the entitlement programs again, but we will be watching that very closely. But we have reflected federal revenues at current levels.
When do we expect to hear, or do we have any idea about what we're going to get?
Yeah, the federal budgeting process works on a completely different timeline. Within the next few months, we should be hearing at least more in terms of like proposals for the upcoming school year. So that's it for revenue. If there are some questions on revenue, and if not, we will move to expenditures, and Margaret will cover that.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, members of our community. So I'm here to talk about the expenditure side. But before I start, again, as Yumi mentioned, some of the numbers that were cited, it doesn't change the actual share of each of those categories, but there's some changes. So certificated salaries are 463.5, with classified being at 147.7. Employee benefit at 354.1, books and supplies is at 52.5, and services and other operating is at 51.9. But the same message as we've always done, and even with any school district, majority of our budget, about 74%, is in salaries and benefit, and then the next big chunk, about 20%, is in services and other operating. It's mostly contracts related to the 251 is mostly contracts for special education contracts. We have the ELOP and after school contract that just goes to board, and then the home to school transportation, utilities, and the other LCAP related contract, as well as IT related contracts are embedded in there. And then we have books and supplies. There's a slight increase compared to last year because we're anticipating that we're doing textbook adoption for the 27-28 year, but we're purchasing it a year in advance in 26-27 for the springtime. In this side, it's just a different graphical representation of what the expenditure are. It's 1.27 billion. A big chunk of it is it's funded by local control funding formula and the unrestricted side. Our LCAP right now, which we would discuss in later slide, is about 960, but 933 of it is coming from unrestricted, and we have about 13.4 in federal and another 13 million in the state funds that we're using, but it's part of our goals and action inside the LCAP. So aside from the base and we have a contributing expenditure for supplemental and concentration. These are the expenditures that we're spending towards helping and improving services for our unduplicated students, which includes your free and reduced, your foster kids, and your English language learners. And then we have about our state grants, which is listed. The special education portion of the state and the federal here only shows the one that's funded by state and federal revenues. The total program for special ed, as is the SELPA plan have shown, is about 300 million. In expenditures. And then you have other big chunks are the ELOP or the Expanded Learning Opportunity Plan of program of 57 million. That's in partnership with after school education, which is about 12 million. And then you have the on behalf of pension contribution of 47. That's almost like a technical pass-through. You have a revenue and an expenditure because of how the state does their accounting. And then you have your arts and music in school. I think in last board meeting, we were asked how much is our arts and music in school, the Prop 28 funds, specifically for arts, it's about 14 million. And then
Margaret, just one clarification on the arts, the arts funding. And as I understand it, a certain percentage of it has to be used for staffing?
Yes. So 80% of the arts and music Prop 28 block grant has to be spent on staffing, and that's what our school is doing. Yep. So basically, all the funds are allocated to individual school site. It's almost like a school site specific grant, and you could not move it from one school to another. So, and they have to spend it 80%, and our arts office actually checks on them on making sure that we're in compliance with how we're using that grant. And then we have the Golden State Pathway Program. This one is a grant that we received last year. And then in 25-26, they spent about 3 million. And this year is the last year of the grant. So they're expected to spend the entirety of the program. And then we have the CTE workforce. And then we have other smaller state grants. The biggest chunk of our federal is the different title programs. It's slightly lower in 26-27 because we fully use up a lot of our just like by law, we fully use up all our carryovers in 25-26. So that's 40 is just current year, mostly current year revenue, except for a small carryover. So that one assumes that we would get the same entitlement for 25-26. So if there's any change in the federal budget, we would reflect that as well. And then you have your small local grants and entitlements. Some of the revenue highlights is that the projected unrestricted expenditure reflects significant use of one-time funding. It's mostly really the student support and professional development BRAC grant. What we try to do is to make sure that it's a stable environment for our programs and for our students, that we actually stretch it out in a very stable manner. So any changes in the state enacted budget would change our expenditure trajectory as well, not just the revenue. For the retirement contribution, it's slightly more stable now than when it first started. We have CalSTRS, but it's still huge, 19.1, and CalPERS contribution is at 26.4. Our health benefit have increased by 7%. It's an average cost of $29,000 per employee. We were at 27 last year when we built the 25-26 budget. And then special education annual cost increases for program is about $10 million. The special ed program have been actively really trying to not to curtail, but like really look at their different processes. And then so this growth is actually an improvement than what we were anticipating in the last budget and even in the interim. But then special education, just to highlight it, is that it continues to be encroaching program where we have about like 60% of the total program cost, or a little over 60%, is actually being funded by local sources, and only 40% is coming from the restricted federal and state revenue. And it's actually important to highlight that the cost associated with it's not just because they're really like increasing costs, but we do see even our enrollment, the special ed student grows a bigger portion of our total enrollment. So you don't you don't expect it to really drop as much, because the number of students that you have in the program that we're supporting is also like remains almost like steady from 10 years ago. It's a little over 10,000. So it's right now it's about 15% of our total enrollment population, while 10 years ago they were approximately about at 12%. So it's almost like they remain static with the costs increasing. Not to say that as Dr. Benitez have said, all the students are our student. It's just that we're not sufficiently funded. So 60% of those costs the district is basically covering it. And then we have increases in utilities. And then we did not assume any salary increase in this budget. So it does not include any of the tentative agreements that we do have in place. And we would do a budget adjustment when those TAs or those agreements have been adopted by the board. This one is a simple, I would say, it's the simplest way to put it is that it's our expenditures are growing faster than our revenue. So there's still a gap. We had good news in the May revision, and the district have implemented a fiscal stabilization plan, which is part of the expenditure highlight. It included certificated and classified reduction, as well as some of the contracts in different programs and program reviews. So that's been embedded in the budget. So that gave us a slightly lower revenue, which is on track with how we're projecting it is of second interim. But if you look at the revenue side, you see that the revenue actually went up a little, and this is because of the may revise good news, whether in LCFF, one time, or even the special ed. But it is important to note that there's still a gap. Like, we have good news, and we commend the state for actually giving us a little bit, like not a little bit, but more money than we're expecting. But unfortunately, it's still not enough. So, and then for this budget year, we actually added a new year, because we always have we have to project a new year for this budget. So in 29-30, we're still anticipating that we have a spending deficit of about 95 million. And so as for the ending balance, our ending balance continue to decrease. If I were to use an analogy or an example, it's looking at it. It's like looking at it like your household budget. Like, there are some times where your expenditure is greater than the paycheck that you're getting, so you dip into your savings, and that's not issue if it only happens one time, 2 times. But if you see it year over year, we know that in our household budget, that's not going to be sustainable. So basically the district, I'm in the wrong, I moved too far. We're basically in the same scenario. Basically what we're seeing is that our ending balance would eventually go down further in 29-30 up to the 63. Although we're still meeting that 2% statutory requirement in 29-30. As mentioned before, 29-30 is also the year that the one-time funding transfer, the artificial transfer of about 25 to 30 million a year, goes back to the unrestricted general fund unless we do something. So those are like some of the risks involved when we look at the ending balance and we stop at 29-30, because we want a more sustainable program longer than 29-30. But to put it now, to segue to the LCAP, although we have very limited resources or we have declining enrollment, the district continue to invest its funds to its goals and priorities. And very similar, we're basically trying to maximize or doing almost like a synergy of sort of trying to see, like, these are our different resources, what are our goals and what are our priorities as a district, and trying to use those resources, leveraging them together, looking at it from a very holistic perspective rather than just, oh, this is my program, this is your program. We're looking at it as a whole, which now I'll turn it over to Dr. Salazar for the LCAP discussion, unless you have any questions on the expenditure side.
Thank you, Margaret. I'll just keep stressing, Dr. Baker, and in the spirit of the culture of our district, to just keep encouraging our teams, our educators, around a language, an inclusive language, as we're doing here in the boardroom, because I do worry about the previous point that I made, that there may be a perception of folks wondering, well, why are we using this money for this? And our ultimate responsibility, legally, mind you, that's why it's so important that when we talk about students with disabilities, they have a legal right to through ADA, through FAPE, and I do worry that when we talk about tough budget times, that folks start asking, well, why are we using this for that? Well, you would ask the same about why we're educating third graders, or why we're educating Black students, or why we're educating multilingual learners. So I want to keep encouraging our team, our educators, that language is super important when we discuss budget, and that it isn't about, well, we have to use this to cover this or use that to cover. We're covering all students' needs, all students' supports, all students' programs, and part of that is that we have a very diverse, unique group of students. And the current funding is inadequate to be able to do legally, by right, what we have to do, but as importantly, the moral responsibility that we have to educate our most underserved students. And I don't want that to be lost in the context of the idea that we're getting more money.
Okay, thank you, Margaret, and good evening to everyone. So as we transition to the discussion around the LCAP and the draft for the LCAP tonight, I want to, again, just briefly make that connection between the LCAP, the budget in particular, this budget update as a way of identifying, what are the available resources within our district, whereas the LCAP really is an opportunity to describe for ourselves and the community how we are resourcing and organizing these resources into goals, actions, services, and expenditures. And that's what the LCAP really serves or sets to serve as. A reminder to all of us that the LCAP is a 3-year plan. It's updated annually. It explains how the district, again, uses the LCFF and other resources, perhaps, to address what are the state and the local priorities, and to provide increase and improve services for our unduplicated students who are English learners, low-income students, and foster and homeless youth. So while we start to focus on this draft, you'll see some of the proposed actions as well as the expenditures for the 26-27 LCAP. So we're going to go again. I think it's important to always kind of reframe ourselves and that this is a 3-year plan and where we began with this 3-year plan. So this visual helps us to remind ourselves of the goal alignment when we started year 1. So this slide is really for informational and as a review to everyone, because I've shared this slide before with everyone. And it's really discussing as a matter of an update for our LCAP discussion that we worked with the community to ensure that we are aligning not only what the state is asking us to do, but also what are our district and internal priorities, and what is a broader strategic vision for this district. So that includes items and seminal work in our district, such as Vision 2035, our strategic plan themes, board goals and guardrails, and of course, we have a responsibility to the LCAP state priorities, goals, and metrics. So we're not going to spend too much time on this because, again, I bring this as a review for all of us. So let's get into a review of what are the LCAP goals. As a reminder, there are 9. And of the 9, the first 5 really are focused on high quality learning for all our students. And we start with goal 1, meaning high quality learning for all. Whereas the next 4 goals are really about our focal student groups that we seek to serve in very specific ways in our district. The remaining goals, 6, 7, 8, and 9, really address the system, our system. How are we as a system resourcing the needs that our students have through engagement, through equitable and a liberatory district, transformative changes, and accelerating learning for students in alternative or continuation schools. So these goals really reflect the commitment to targeted supports that have been mentioned earlier, but really coherence across our district priorities. The next couple of slides, if you recall our presentation at this time last year, we think it's really important for our community to see presentation in a similar format so that it helps build an understanding as a community, both internally and externally. So these next couple of slides provide a goal-by-goal overview, and I won't get too in-depth with them, but they really serve as an overview of what is proposed to as investments in programs and services, again, that support student learning, engagement, equitable practices, and overall a systemic improvement in LBUSD. So here we have goal 1. It's our broadest goal. It represents the foundation of our district's instructional programming. This goal focuses on high quality learning for all students with approximately $503.2 million in planned expenditures. What's important in this goal and its actions that you can see here, it includes a lot of core services for students and for schools that they rely on a daily basis. So what might those be? Where we see that it says pupil services, instruction-related services being the first 3 actions of this goal. These are core services, right? And so they include classroom teachers, instructional materials, and all the other ways in which we service students daily at our school sites. Some of the larger investments in this goal are around instruction, which includes teachers and school materials, because we need those on a daily basis. But this goal also shows high quality learning is not just about classroom instruction. It also provides an insight into supports that help students access student learning, such as counseling, some health services are called out, literacy interventions, learning acceleration, and career paths. So altogether, these actions really represent our commitment to supporting students and the needs that they may encounter on a daily basis while in our schools. Goal 2, high quality learning for Black student achievement, really has one really big encompassing action. It's the Black Student Achievement Initiative. And it's a commitment, it's a continued commitment to Black student achievement in our district. The planned expenditures for this goal are approximately $2.6 million. So this goal, again, very intentional in its focus, not as broad as goal 1, and that's on purpose. It's really designed to center the experiences, the strengths, the assets, the needs, and the success of our Black students in LBUSD. So this investment really supports, again, what we refer to as BSAI, or Black Student Achievement Initiative, through programming such as Sankofa Saturdays, which we've heard beautiful things about, Sankofa After School, parent workshops through Sankofa, or the Sankofa Parent Village, the support of young Black scholars and Black student unions, upcoming Black Literary Society celebration that we've also heard of, and of course the activation and continuation of the Center of Black Excellence. Goal 3, high quality learning for English learners. I am one myself, and a long-term English learner. Again, 2 important actions around English learner support and English learner coaches and specialists. And this goal has planned expenditures at approximately $5.9 million. Yes, $5.9 million. And you can see in the slide how each of the actions has an allocated expenditure attached to it. So the 2 actions in this goal, as I said, is English learner support, which includes our interpretation unit, which we are always so thankful for. And earlier today, they really went out on a limb under your guidance, Carmen, to really try something new and different to bring in a seamless interpretation experience within the boardroom. But also LPAC, because that's a requirement for our students. And so how do we cover to make sure that those students are being assessed on a yearly basis so that we can get to the intended outcome for them, which is reclassification. Whereas action 2 is the intent is to provide EL coaches and specialists as needed. Goal 4 is a focus on students with disabilities, high quality learning for students with disabilities. The planned expenditures for this goal are $174.8 million. This goal includes 4 actions: special education supports, pupil services around health services, instructional aids, and early learning speech programming. The largest investment being for special education supports, which includes special education teachers, classroom aides, transportation, non-public agency support, and support exceeding state and federal resources for special education. Goal 5, again, a focus on our homeless and foster youth. It has planned expenditures of approximately $200,000. The primary action is that for homeless and foster youth is really this connection to social workers in our district and the amazing work that they do for those students who are identified as foster youth and or homeless. Goal 6, around engagement. So this represents approximately $9.3 million in planned expenditures. Action 6.1 includes the support and the ways in which our staff at school sites help parents engage and build engagement around quality programming at schools through the use of recreation aids. We just recently celebrated our most inspiring students across our district, a beautiful celebration of ways in which students, just really inspires to be our better selves. High school sports, coaching, transportation, officials, community permits, and sports trainers, because there's a lot that goes into these amazing programs that we have at our schools. But equally around Parent University in Action 6.2, Parent University Parent Leadership Programs that we heard about earlier today, and the ability to help remove some of the barriers by providing childcare at some of our programming through the support of Action Youth America. So together, these really support family engagement, student participation, and communication. Goal 7, we start to talk about our system. So Goal 7 as well is equitable and liberatory district, with expenditures representing approximately $111.5 million. It includes general administration and other services, and as you can see here, there's quite a few. There's 7 actions total that range from school-based student supports to early learning initiatives. We mentioned our early music program, elementary music program, restorative justice, instructional intervention coordinators, and male and female leadership academy, and the continuation of all those actions and programming. Goal 8. And as an overview of transformative change in Goal 8, there's approximately $146.4 million in planned expenditures. And this includes the system level supports that make teaching and learning really possible across our district. So the goal includes, of course, some really important items such that are base or afforded to all our sites, such as the maintenance of our school sites, right? Curriculum support, professional development, and the successful certification of National Board certified teachers. And last but not least, it's our equity multiplier goal that really supports EPHS, or Educational Partnership High School, and Reed High School, focused on accelerating learning for students that are in our alternative or continuation schools. The planned expenditures for this goal are $6.3 million, and it really covers the uniqueness of this goal is that it really is community driven. So both at Reed and at EPHS, site leadership really engages their community, their school community, in a needs assessment and develops this action and these goals on a yearly basis. And so you see some of the planned actions for here, and that includes staffing for alternative and continuation schools, but equally the idea of mentorships, tutoring, additional tutoring above and beyond, professional development, and college and career advising for students who are often furthest from success. All right, and to help us continue the conversation around the LCAP, I'm gonna hand it over to Carmen, who's gonna help us summarize some of the highlights within the LCAP draft, but equally just what's the next step for us to get us to come back in June with the idea that we will make a suggestion for recommendation to adopt the LCAP.
Thank you, Dr. Salazar. Good evening, board members. Good evening, senior staff and community watching at home. As Dr. Salazar shared with us, some of the key highlights of our LCAP include several important updates. As you can see, our first is actions, programs, and services that now have all allocated budgets. Second, our metrics that have additional current data. Third, we have increased or improved services, a section that has further details, and the technical assistance section that has also been described in further detail. And these updates help strengthen the draft by providing more complete information about how resources are connected to actions and how those actions are intended to support our student outcomes, all of our student outcomes. And the draft will continue to be available for our public review and feedback through June 9th, and later we'll review where that can be found. And so along with the accompanying documents, we also have posted our draft with the following. We have our budget overview, we have the annual update, the actual LCAP draft, LCAP tables, and LCAP instructions. And so our community members are encouraged to review the draft documents and provide feedback. We want to thank our community members for their engagement in the budget and LCAP process, and we appreciate the thoughts and comments and prioritization of programs and services that have been shared throughout the year. And feedback can be provided by visiting the LCAP webpage at www.lbschools.net/LCAP. And as you know, we've been through a timeline and various phases, and so that's what this slide summarizes for us. During phase 1,
we gathered community voice, connected to the budget through the thought exchange, through various engagement sessions and monthly updates through newsletters. During phase 2, we continued the LCAP input and drafting, and staff engaged with advisory groups. We shared preliminary thought exchange results, and we publicly released the budget and LCAP content. Our draft LCAP was released for community review and feedback, and we will continue refining the LCAP in response to our community feedback, any county input or state guidance. In June, as Dr. Salazar mentioned, we will provide a response to community feedback, or Dr. Baker will, and the board will review the budget and LCAP for approval. So after approval, also note that our staff continues to be in communication with LACO. So we'd like to thank, obviously, our Board of Education. We appreciate the support of Dr. Baker and district staff, but more specifically our families and our students, our advisory groups, our community partners, for your continued engagement in the LCAP process. The LCAP reflects a shared commitment to student success, accountability, and continuous improvement. So we look forward to continuing the public review process and bringing the final LCAP forward to the board for consideration and approval.
You have a question about when that would be?
Yeah, when would it be that we would get it for final approval? I know the deadline.
We are scheduled to come back June 17th, where we will make the recommendation that it's approved, or I'm sorry, adopted, officially adopted, formally.
I have it in my mind that I remember coming to these meetings with a lot of public testimony about I mean, it seems like it's worked itself out so that you're working with the public earlier and reaching agreements and making it more understandable, and it's to be commended for that. I can remember sitting here for very long periods of time listening to people talk about the need for this or that, and I'm glad you worked that out.
Thank you.
So great job, very thorough. Thank you. It was a great presentation. My question is, the data in the LCAP, will that be presented at another time? I know we received it as board members.
So, so what we will be doing, the current draft has all the updated metrics. So the draft that is on our webpage has all the metrics included currently.
Right.
In the past, and what we plan to do is add 2 additional items to the June 17th materials that you'll receive. One is a separate spreadsheet, because we also share that with the community, and it's just the metric, what we refer to as the metrics tables.
Right.
In addition, we also provide a summary of the LCAP, which is at a glance of what is the goal, what are the actions and expenditures. That part won't include metrics, but because it gets long. But there is plan to have the metrics table separated out and a summary of the LCAP.
And presented at a board meeting?
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
we will, it'll be part of your board materials, yes.
Okay, I just want to, at some point, just engage in that discussion, but everything was great.
We could add that too, yes.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very thorough presentation, and the slides, everything was very clear. But I was just wondering if we were going to engage in that in the near future, but thank you. It was great.
Thank you. And I failed to mention, part of the next board meeting as well will be a presentation around what are the local indicators that we are required to have. And so that's a requirement as well of the presentation when we make a request for adoption of the LCAP.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, team. Great job. Just a couple of notes of appreciation from my end. I saw that the draft is up and that the LCAP feedback input page also has the additional framing so that folks know sort of are prompted to the responses. So thank you for that. I do want to I know we're talking about interim board guardrail coming up, but because Dr. Salazar did mention that multilingual learning is part of the LCAP, just big props to the coordination for the earlier presentation that we had the parents here earlier, and I wanted to emphasize that although I know there are some technical considerations for interpretation, and those are worked themselves through, I really appreciate the real-time, simultaneous interpretation. I can't recall, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, another time in this space where we had the headsets. And just throwing it out there that for public comment, rather than having staggered interpretation, other meetings with the challenges of staggered interpretation. So throwing it out into the universe of the language, justice, and equity conversation, that I thought it was powerful earlier today to have the presentation set up in a way where we could just pick up the headset and get simultaneous interpretation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. It was coordination on Carmen's behalf, and we have an amazing interpretation unit who also advocate for that being the standard.
Yeah. So I'll double down on that. I thought it was fantastic as well. I'm going to tease my friend as the second loudest person on the dais here. It was good to, there's a part of me that had to train my brain on how to listen through the headset. But once I got to that point, it was fantastic. So I just wanted to give a big shout out because I thought it was great to have simultaneous conversation in this space. So really, really well done. Moving on back to the LCAP really quickly, I wanted to go over goal 2 just for a quick second here. And so we're talking about our high quality learning for Black student achievement. And so the district obviously has been transparent that we have a lot of work to do, right? Obviously, we've captured our shortcomings along with some of the inputs that we have in regards to support to our Black students as we work to shrink the achievement gap. All things considered, when we're talking about an allocation of this $2.6 million, for clarity's sake, I want to make sure that it is understood, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just what's captured in the LCAP. That is not the minimum amount or maximum amount of resources that is going to be going to support our Black student achievement efforts, correct?
Yes. Yes, sorry. Yes, majority of the additional support, this one, about 1.5 of that is in personnel costs, and that's for like for the Center for Black Student Achievement and other. Our Black student continues to receive like what other students are getting. So this is on top of the services that we're providing to all our students.
Great. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted confirmation, and correct me if I'm wrong, just from this LCAP, the $2.6 million that we have captured here, this is an increase, or is this a...
So this one is actually as part of the unrestricted base. We're using base funding for it because technically we could not use contributing action in the definition of supplemental and concentration.
Right.
So, but it's one of our goals. So the LCAP is looking at it from like not just the 120 million of increase and improved services for our unduplicated student, but we've also reflected increase and improved services for other groups, whether it was an approved use of funds for supplemental and concentration, but we would never count it towards that. So when LACO reviews our thing, they would not even they look at it as like your base investment or base allocation to a certain district priority rather than an increase in improved service for unduplicated students.
Margaret, is this 2.6 million an increase or decrease from this year's budget?
Oh, from last year. Okay, yes, I could say. Let me see.
You're fine, Mark.
Yes. Okay. So last year, our 25-26, it's basically almost the same. 2.6 million is last year, and then 2.6 is what's in the LCAP. What we have in the what we spent so far this year is close enough. It's 2.57. So we still have a few more. We still have a few more months. So, but it's basically the same as last year.
Right. But the component that I think that I also want to make sure that we capture is that we do recognize that there is a reduction in students coming in, but we did not change. We didn't our rationale wasn't that because there's less students and we'll give less money. We understand that there's still a deficit, and so we have kept the amount of resources that is the bare minimum that's captured in the LCAP for our Black student achievement efforts.
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
Okay.
So it's the same as last year.
Okay. Thank you.
Along the same lines, like another question, goal 6 on engagement. What was allocated last year versus the 9.3 million this year?
So last year, it's 9.7 million. And then we have 9.3 almost, 9.3 million in 26-27.
So, yeah, I apologize because there was one point that I wanted to clarify here. So a couple of weeks ago, we received a number of letters regarding the underinvestment to our Black students and the almost devaluing of our Black student achievement efforts. And so I hope that this document shows that the district has not gone astray from its initial efforts, as we're going to continue to do so. But along those same lines, helping the community understand that this is the floor in regards to the amount of efforts that we're providing from a resource understanding, as there is much more that goes into supporting our Black students, and we have a lot more work to go. But all things considered, I wanted to make sure that there was clarity in understanding what our, from a resource standpoint, what the district's efforts have been. Thank you.
Also of note on that topic is that this does not tell us what our schools spend their allocations on. So this is district LCAP. There is an allocation to schools in this, but it also doesn't tell what schools choose to spend their money on.
And goal 3 with the, in regards to our English learners and LTELs, we have 5.9 million. What was last year's? Because the data there, just like with our Black students, is pretty
so
bad.
last year, it was 4.6 million.
Thank you.
So there's an increase.
Okay, do we have any further questions or comments? In that case, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you,
We appreciate
team.
all the work that goes into it.
One last question. Where can we find the survey again? Can somebody remind me?
Oh, it'll be my joy to share that it's on on our webpage, lbschools.net/LCAP. Thank you for asking.
I didn't hear that.
And I'm thinking we should take a break. I'm looking around. Okay. So we will take a 5-minute break and be back at 7:35. And rejoin our agenda in progress. And I'll check and make sure we're all good. Okay. So next on our agenda is new business, and item 17.1 is our superintendent of schools search process. And so we actually have 2 members of our search firm to join us this evening to give us an update. So welcome.
So thank you very much for having us do this. By the way, our report's not as long as the LCAP, so I want to just start with that. But thank you very much. We thought it would be helpful, even though the board pretty much knows all this, but it's good for you to be able to have your community and your staff really know where we are and everything. So, of course, just so a quick summary of that part, we closed, of course, on May 4th. We had originally had 48 people request applications. 21 people completed all the application materials. And all the candidates were really vetted based on the input we had. You know, as we asked questions, the key characteristics, qualities that your community, your staff talked about were really how we asked questions to see if these people were going to be good matches for you as a board. So that was really real critical part to understand what your staff and community were really looking for in their new leader. We had a lot of opportunities for input. Our survey we had nearly 5,000 people, complete the survey. That's the most we've had in any search we've ever done in 30 years. So that's a pretty good number, and that really speaks, I think, to the commitment and involvement of your community. We then had 22 sessions, whether it was Zoom or in person, with various groups. I think we had about 16 different groups and categories of people, from your associations, your community partners, parent groups, management team, parent university, all the different kinds of groups that we met with. We also additionally, not really, but we had some phone calls with people too to get more input, and that was additional information and support. From all of that information, the survey, the input sessions, we wrote an executive summary where we synthesized everything we heard from all of those inputs to write what people really were saying. And if you remember the executive summary, it also talked about a couple of key areas. It identified the characteristics and qualities that people wanted. It identified the district's strengths, the things that were really wonderful about this. And by the way, in listening to some of the LCAP, I was thinking about what the kids said about what they love, and there was a lot of it in that. So that was really, I thought, very reinforcing for me. The district challenges, we heard some of that in your budget, which is you have declining enrollment. Those are some of those kinds of things. And we also talked about key areas for this new superintendent to know. What do they really need to know about what they're coming into, what this would be like in this role? So that executive summary is really also part of our tool as we talk to candidates. We wrote a position description. You all saw that. You've posted it on your district website. And that really was also one of our tools, both in recruiting and evaluating where the candidates really fit the profile for what your community and staff were really saying they wanted. So that's a really important part for how much the input means to us. I always say that one of the things that there are certain characteristics that everybody wants. Everybody wants honesty. We hope everybody wants honesty. Some of the characteristics that are pretty common. But we also learn a lot about the context within which this person will come to work. What is this community like? What are the people like? What do they care about? What are the values? So that's very helpful for us. And I think the candidates, as we've talked to them, are very excited about this opportunity and what this district has. You have challenges. There isn't a district that we know of that doesn't have challenges. We haven't met any yet, so we think that's probably true. The board then, when you reviewed all the candidates, used that criteria, that position description, to say, do these people fit the qualities and characteristics, what we're really looking for in the new leader? And I think that's really part of why all the input is so important to us, and it's important to you. Because you take that in when you interview candidates and say, is this going to work in our community? And I think that's a big part of it. Sandy's going to cover a few other things about how other ways we use this input. As I talked, I covered a bit of it, so she'll take that, and then we'll kind of wrap up where we are now and what happens next.
Just want to reiterate what Peggy shared in that we're absolutely honored to have continued to serve Long Beach Unified. It's been a real joyful process for us to get to know the staff and your community. Very special place. As you've heard, the outreach for community input was extensive, the most extensive that we've ever experienced. The board was very clear in their request to ensure widespread and authentic community input. The input informed every aspect of the search process. The feedback gathered was used to develop the position description, which is the recruiting tool. Our team used the community input to identify leaders who have had a track record of demonstrating the leadership style, expertise, and skill set valued by the Long Beach Unified staff, parents, students, civic leaders, and community partners. The community input also informed the questions that we asked in our reference calls and our vetting, including identifying the real passion that these folks had for and accomplishments in furthering progress with equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and ultimately resulting in higher student achievement outcomes. The vetting of candidates included our understanding of how strongly these candidates were a match for the elements of Vision 2035. The community input was also used to develop the interview questions. Because of the extensive community input, we were able to to a very high degree, personalize this whole process to fit Long Beach Unified. The board received all of the input from the community and used this feedback as they considered which applicants would be invited for an interview. The board members are the elected representatives of the community and have represented the community very well, as they have seriously taken into account the feedback gathered as they fulfill their responsibility of selecting the next superintendent for Long Beach Unified. We're very pleased to report that the board has a very strong pool of candidates from which to choose. We commend the board for their full attention and dedication throughout this search process. It's been a true honor for us to get to know Long Beach Unified more intimately. We spend a lot of time here just for pleasure to enjoy Long Beach, but it has been a real joyful experience to get to know the staff that have demonstrated to be really top quality people, quality folks who are dedicated to serving all children, to ensure that there's a real collaborative effort to ensure that the limited resources that Long Beach has are going to make a real impact on the lives of these children, no matter what their demographic. It's been a wonderful experience for us, and again, we're so grateful that you provided this opportunity for us to serve you. Thank you.
And then kind of our next steps a little bit. First of all, I do want to thank your staff, just coordinating everything. Dr. Brown, Nader, everybody's been super helpful to get us the kind of resources we need to make it work, and coordinating all those, getting messages out, all those kinds of things. I think one of the other things I would say is, for both of us, I know, we work with a lot of different boards in the state of California. Some are fun and nice to work with, some are not so much fun. And this has been a really nice experience for us. We watched how respectful you are with each other, and that's something that I know as I've talked to candidates who are wanting to consider this job all along, have said, I've watched what they do, and that makes me excited about the opportunity. So I really want to be, I'm grateful for that. So on Sunday, the board has the challenging task now of actually selecting a candidate, a finalist. So you'll be interviewing. It's an all-day event. It's a long day, but I think you'll find it can also be very rewarding, and it'll give you a good opportunity to spend some time with these people and figure out what works for you. Once you have made that finalist, for the public's perspective, there is negotiations on a contract. They have to come to terms, get that all taken care of with the lawyer and all those detail work. And then at a regularly scheduled board meeting, the board would have to approve at a regularly scheduled board. You can't call a special meeting. Very often boards have an opportunity for that to occur at a meeting where they can have the candidate come and be introduced and community people can meet them. We've had lots of opportunities where the candidate brings their family. You get to meet the whole group, and it's a nice opportunity to recognize them and have your community meet them as well. So that will occur whenever that next regularly scheduled meeting, once the contract language is completed. So that's really the next steps. We're always here to assist. We bring the candidates to you. We keep it very confidential for obvious reasons. These people are in jobs, and they don't want to disrupt their own work where they currently are, and we think that's a really important part of it. And we've appreciated how much that has been honored by the board and by the district. So that's a very quick summary of about 3 months worth of work.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments, Dr. Benitez?
Yeah, thank you for the pretty quick recap there
of 3 months of
of
work.
a very complex and in-depth process here to make sure that we select the best, absolute best possible person for big shoes to fill here in Long Beach. I do have a legal question around the regularly scheduled meeting when we get to that part of the agenda, Jeff, but I want to express gratitude to all of the staff and students and community members that actually provided
They were fabulous.
input. It's good to hear that Long Beach is once again the best in something, and in this case, in the number of respondents, whether it be through the survey or through the sessions that were held. So big thank you. One reflection that I would have moving forward, and I'd love to sort of follow up to get your thoughts on how this might work, is because of this commitment to community engagement, and you heard it here today, and it's one of our pillars, and it came up as a priority too for the next superintendent, is I am disappointed that because of the confidentiality considerations, we weren't able to add an additional layer of community engagement where community could meet some of the candidates. So I would, in thought partnerships, ask you to kind of think, what might that look like?
Right.
Because I do think it's important for our community. I'm sure that it's important for other communities. So I just wanted to share that I was disappointed that we weren't able, because of the confidentiality, to make that additional, to have more community engagement, basically. So those are my thoughts.
And I do want to say, we recognize this is the biggest decision, but it's your decision as a board, and we know this is the biggest decision you make. It's a very important one, and we know how serious this board is certainly taking it. And I think when you reflect on all the input you've received, and I don't know, I mean, if you read all of that, it was a lot. There was a lot to read about the input. And if you read all that, I think you have a good understanding, because you represent your community well, and you have a good understanding of what they're really looking for, and you'll bring that to the meeting. And it'll be a challenging decision. Our job, we always think, is to make your decision hard, right? To make it harder for you to make that decision. But you have a lot of input and a lot of ideas, and a good sense of your community, we think.
We'd like to also recognize the civil discourse with which the board deliberated and grappled with the conundrum of this board desperately wanting to have even more extensive community input, but also understanding the drawbacks and the real risks of losing confidentiality. So it was a lengthy deliberation and a lot of earnest conversation among the board to really grapple with that. But we saw very clearly and recognized how much you are committed to community engagement and how much that really, really means to you personally and collectively as a board. So we appreciate that, we respect that, and we understand how hard of a decision that was for you to move forward with this process.
Well, I want to thank you for your patience, your professionalism throughout this process, and you're absolutely correct. The feedback in the hundreds of pages that were given to us as board members clearly give us an indication of what our community is looking for in the next leader of this district. And so I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work, and I think this process was also, a little bumpy, and your patience and your professionalism is much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll see you bright and early Sunday morning.
Yes, thank you, and see you Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we have item 17.2, acceptance of monitoring report for board interim guardrail 2A. We had a presentation earlier today, and now we will be taking action on that.
Madam President, may I share a few things about that report as we?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity to hear specifically from parents at our school sites and those who interact with parents at our school site. I'm going to call attention page 655, imagine that, page 655 and 656 of the board materials. And I just would like to highlight a few things from this guardrail monitoring report. So as a reminder, and this
I'm
is
sorry,
partly
Dr. Baker, we have a different numbering on our pages.
Okay, so it starts, looks like this, and it's the 2 pages that
So
have most of the
372.
information.
372 on our
okay.
packet, yeah.
372, thank
yeah,
you
thank you.
for clarification. So as a reminder, this is the 4th of our 5 guardrails that we will monitor this year. The next one comes June 17th, that is around English learner monitoring. So the guardrail is reflective of the values. The goals are reflective of student outcomes, and the guardrails are intended to provide an illustration of values. And I say that to say it's a very different way of monitoring, doesn't have the same kinds of data in it. Having the panel was a way for us to enter into that guardrail and see one facet of engagement which was specific to the school site. This is a proxy for what the guardrail actually is. So the guardrail is actually the superintendent may not allow implementation or adoption of any classroom, guardrail 2. I'm reading guardrail 3. Guardrail 2. The superintendent may not allow major district-wide initiatives to go forth without engaging students of color and their families, following stakeholder engagement principles that are utilizing current adopted best practices. So want to appreciate the work that was put in by multiple departments, even to come to what would it look like to illustrate in practice what that value is. In fact, in addition to equity engagement and partnerships, the Research and Student Outcomes Office is reflected here, and I'll share where. The communications team, staff from the Center of Black Student Excellence, our facilities department, state and federal programs office, the Board of Education itself, students, and Dr. Twall relative to the strategic plan monitoring. And so we're taking a big step back and thinking about that guardrail in its totality while we heard one aspect of that today. So the first page reminds us of the guardrail and gives some background on the lead department. I'll turn your attention, if you turn to the second page of the monitoring report. In the middle of it, there are 4 different aspects. Thank you, team, behind the scenes. District engagement, focus groups, advisory groups and town hall meetings, and then family survey and student pulse survey. So I just want to call attention to these. This is where multiple departments have collaborated at a district level, interacting with students, interacting with families, and interacting with schools, but stepping back from the examples that we heard this morning. So in terms of district engagement, you can see, as it says, across 12 types of district family engagements collected on Thought Exchange, over 550 participants, citing the 89% they're tracking were from families of color. Significant, we heard the LCAP team mention this, the high level of engagement across nearly 3,000 participants and the thoughts that were expressed there. Also, at your request, tracking the percent of respondents who replied and that they were students of color as well as their families. And then you can see to the focus group point, we had the communications team, research and student outcomes office, Dr. Twall, Dr. Levitt, participating in focus groups around multiple topics that were connected to the board's goals. And that's the other thing. This monitoring report is reflective of the connection to the board's goals, not all of the kinds of things that we can engage about. On the right-hand side of that, you'll see the notation about advisory groups and town hall meetings. So you can see some of the regular groups that are engaged for feedback, for LCAP, for opportunities to communicate with district staff with the numbers there. Your Board of Education town halls are named there. That was the Equity Engagement Partnerships Office who participated in hosting and really interacting on customer service issues. And then something we don't often talk about, but facilities community engagement town halls that tells us about their projects and those who were engaged there. The survey data reflected family survey and student pulse survey, so you can see the responses that were provided around the family survey. That also appears in the LCAP, so we're also trying to look at where we see the alignment between what we're reporting in the LCAP and how that appears in terms of engagement, and then also the student pulse survey, which you've heard us talk at length about, that in particular around sense of belonging and how students have really elevated that as part of the priority for them. And so this gives us a chance to step way back. Obviously, we heard a wonderful story about what parents and support staff have been doing at schools, and then the broader look of the proxy for thinking about inclusive decision-making. What does it look from a district perspective? So with that, I just wanted to make sure that there was a little context. Dr. Brown, I don't know if there was anything specifically that you wanted to add after this morning's report. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll just add that we heard from a panel including a couple of moms, and they talked about how much the workshops and outreach mean to them? And some of the things we heard was that it was empowering. They feel stronger together. They're able to make connections with other parents. We're motivating parents to be more engaged and more involved in their child's education. And it all comes down to making everyone feel welcome. And we heard from the grant principal that a smile doesn't cost anything. So just the value in that, people to people dynamic. And then they were also courageous enough to tell us how we can improve, what we need to work on. And one of the things that they mentioned was the role of the facilitators on their school campuses. So it's definitely something that we need to keep in mind as we tout the value in their engagement. We have to make sure that, we honor what they tell us, that we act on that it's not left just in a panel, just as, something that we heard that we don't absorb and soak it in. So with that, I believe we need to approve this monitoring report.
Should I save my question for discussion then, President Craig?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I move to approve progress monitoring report for interim guardrail 2A.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so along the comments that you just shared, President Craig, I do have a wondering from Dr. Baker, Dr. Brown, the team in general around thinking on how we can account for, we definitely want to see an increase in involvement, participation, engagement, but there is a difference between responding to a survey, coming to a community meeting, participating in an ELAC space. So just kind of thinking that, of course, we want to see an overall increase, but how would we account for the different levels, some more involved than others, some more directly impacting school site decision making than others? Any thoughts, wonderings as 20% increase, great, but not all increase is kind of the same, right? So thoughts about that from the team.
I'll start, and then please add in as others have thoughts. Our core work has been built around being in and with community. So the engagement that we're talking about is the spirit of relationship, which doesn't come through surveys. A survey may be one component that hopefully sparks a conversation. And so our effort that happens not through any one office, but through all of our bodies of work and all of our schools, is that we will engage with families in a way that builds relationships and allows for dialogues to continue and grow in the spirit of ongoing use of lived experience, the customer service impact of the work that we're doing, and moving forward in that regard. So the number that we get will never quantify the quality of what we're seeking in terms of really holding relationships. And if we think back to the 2 staff members and the really brilliant parents who shared with us earlier, everything that they're talking about is the spirit of empowerment, relationship, open dialogue, sharing with one another. So that's kind of a high-level response to what you're asking, and I'd offer any colleagues to add to that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Brown, because you touched on something that was in the spirit of what I attempted to share earlier today, which the impact of what that participation is leading to. So the question around, what have we learned from these relationships and the testimonies that are shared, and in what ways does that learning make our system better? All right, so that's I think we're saying similar things, but anyone else, I'd love to hear thoughts about that.
Yes, thank you. I was going to share. So you may recall when we initially adopted this or brought in this interim guardrail and the wording of this, as Dr. Baker said, we were very intentional about being grounded in our board goals and guardrails. There's a lot of engagement that happens, but how do we get very precise related to this? The other thing that we did as it relates to the data collection is we knew that we had some really key ways to measure engagement. Surveys are very clear. We can see the numbers. Number of people who come to a town hall meeting, we can count them. We know that probably the most powerful engagement happens at the school level, where even around goals and guardrails, you'll have a principal and an IIC and a math lead bringing parents in to talk about math approaches and how parents can learn about these approaches. How can we learn from parents about the way their students are learning? We don't yet have a great mechanism to collect up that data of what kind of engagement's happening out, who are the parents, what are the numbers. But that's a place that we can definitely grow. So what we see right now is just these kind of key ways that we're measuring district level engagement around these board goals and guardrails. And we know our next iteration is to, as we dig deeper into the engagement that's happening at a school level, how do we actually collect that up in a way that allows us to report out to the board and to the public?
And actually, thank you for naming those things. Those appear in the next steps that are here in the report itself, including, Dr. Benitez, your notice of today's communication system and what that might mean. So the last of the 4 points in next steps: expand access, do multilingual communication and participation supports that reduce barriers for families and community members.
Quick question. How will stakeholders know that their input influence district actions?
Are you asking in a specific area or just generally?
Just in general, because we're talking about the community engagement, and so we want to bring them in, but I'm hoping they're going to be giving us feedback. And so how do they know that we're taking their input and taking it into action?
Yeah, that's a good question. It varies depending on what kind of engagement. So some of the examples I can think of, there are formal in the LCAP. There's actually a letter that goes out to any questions that were asked. The data, as you heard tonight, the team reflects things that have been incorporated because of community input. The focus groups often have a circle back to the group that was participating in the focus group. So if it's an affinity space, and we've had focus groups where teams are interviewing English learners, they circle back and share a summary and how the data is used in whatever the focus group has intended to give information about. So it kind of depends on what it is, but a best practice that we believe in and have adopted is to circle back to those who provide input in some way, depending on the example, and then share with them what actions were taken or how it was influenced, how their data influenced what happened. Similar to, I think about like even just taking the board goals and guardrails. Part of the board and goals and guardrails community session is not to take instant action, but it's to continue to check your vision with the community vision. And then as you start to think about establishing new goals, you'll be able, in many cases, to use that as a filter in to what you're thinking about the community's vision. If it's changed, if it's staying the same. So we use a similar process in smaller units, I guess, of time.
And just why was the baseline listed at 0%?
Because in the way that this is written, we've never monitored this. So the team, the research and student outcomes team, along with so Dr. Madrigal, Dr. Salazar, came together, and because we've never monitored in this way, it's establishing the baseline.
Okay, do we have any other comments or I'm sorry?
A quick comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really I read this, and as I was leaving the house this morning, my wife said, "What are you doing at the board meeting tonight?" And I said, "Oh, we've got this interim guardrail about decision-making and engagement," and she said, "Of course." I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "They graduate. You know, you have to keep doing this because you keep getting new students and their families involved, and it's so important to have a goal like this or a guardrail like this to make sure we're continuing to do this." And I said, "Oh yeah." She used to work for the CSU system, and I think that was part of her job, was to get that kind of input. So when I saw this and then read it again, I thought it's very important to what we do.
Oh.
Just waiting for your call question.
Okay. I thought you had another question or comment. In which case, All in favor? And we are approving this
Accepting the
report.
monitoring report.
Accepting the monitoring report, thank you. Yes. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes 5-0. And that brings us to approval of monitoring calendar for board goals and guardrails. And I'll just remind us that with our quarterly self-evaluations, there's a mention in the column for, I believe it's under mastering, that the board doesn't make changes to the goals and guardrails. But when it comes to the monitoring calendar, staff can make changes as we learn our way through the process. And so having this item on our agenda shows that we are learning our way through the process and also honoring the work of our staff, because they have to be able to align the research and data that's available with a calendar that works for our calendar of board meetings. Everything has to align just right. It's a heavy lift, and it's a process. We may even see more changes in the future, but this is the calendar that's been refined so that we can go forward in the next school year and beyond. So I believe we need a motion for that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, this is item 17.3, yes?
Yes, item
Okay.
17.3.
So I won't be voting because I didn't get those pages. I go from page 377 to 380, so I didn't get page 378 or 379 in my packet.
Okay. Mr. Moskovitz.
I was going to provide a little context on the calendar, but I don't know if you want to. Would you like a copy to look at the moment?
That would be great.
So first of all, this is listed as an information action item. Our preference would be that we take action tonight so that we can move forward with the calendar into next year. But if for some reason the board feels that we should come back on the 17th for action, that would be okay too. So let me just give a little context. And President Craighead, thank you for mentioning the SOFG rubric, which I have in front of me, and you're right, that is part of the monitoring and accountability section, that there needs to be a board-adopted monitoring calendar. The calendar spans the length of the board's goals, and that we don't want to be changing the calendar too often, but there are times where we have to, based on new information that we have. We've been working with, as you all know, we continue to work with Greg Klein, our Council of Great City Schools coach, around this SOFG work. President Craighead and Mr. Miller are part of that when we meet regularly. And so one of the things we did, and this really is on behalf, I share this on behalf of Dr. Madrigal, Hamina Lalani, and the whole research and student outcomes team that really put a lot of time and energy into thinking about the calendar. It's kind of amazing. We're actually 3 years now into the 5-year board goals and guardrails, so 2 more years coming. But as we've continued to learn, this last year was really the first year that we had the fully established goals with the interim goals, with the targets for each. So while we're in the 3rd year, this is really kind of the first year of the entire system being fully in place. And as we learned this year, one of the things that we identified was that we were well above the minimum number of monitoring reports that we had to bring to the board. And that was great. We were, trying to get the A+, I believe. But I think we all found, definitely staff and maybe the board as well, that the cadence of reports was very rapid. And more importantly, from the time the data was available to us as a staff to the time we turned them around to you all as a board was very quick. There really wasn't enough time for us to engage with principals and teachers and others to really analyze that data in a way that was meaningful to creating the change that we're really trying to create. So one of the things you'll notice on, if you were to compare the proposed calendar for the next 2 years to this current calendar, you'll see that we're actually going from 28 reports in the current year to 22 next year. So 6 may not seem like a big change. It is a significant reduction in an overall. More importantly, we've pushed back in some ways, in some instances, the date that you'll receive the report from what you would have seen this year. For example, for those looking at the calendar, we'll be talking about Goal 4 in December next year, December 2025. This last year, we looked at Goal 4 in September or October. That just allows us to take the data at the end of the summer when it's available, engage, as I said, with senior team, district leaders, principals, teachers, to really understand what is this data telling us, and what are we going to do differently as a result of it. So by the time you receive that report, you can know that it has been thoroughly kind of vetted and input provided by lots of different groups. Not to say that didn't happen this year, just the window was so much tighter that we were all sort of scrambling to get that clear information. So the fewer monitoring reports and slightly larger windows are going to allow us, I think, to have more meaningful conversations with you as the board, and again, more importantly, to make sure that we're engaged with our team, our staff, our teachers more intentionally. A couple other quick things, and then any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer. One of the things that actually isn't really in the calendar itself, it's actually an omission, something that we intentionally removed from the calendar. You've probably heard from teachers, principals, we definitely did, as we have staff attend teacher council meetings. We have teacher council meetings with representatives from every school at elementary, middle, and high school. We talk with our principals through groups like Album and just regular interactions. We know that we hear that the number of assessments that our students take sometimes feels burdensome. And we are constantly balancing how do we make sure that we get enough assessment to know where our students are in progression towards what we expect, but not over-assess to the point where it's becoming, as I said, it's taking away from instructional time, or it's becoming a burden to students or to teachers. So it's a fine balance. All of the assessments that we have brought forth for our teachers and students to actually take are grounded in the board goals and guardrails. So our students are not taking any assessments that are not ultimately being reported up to you all. However, specific to board goal 3 and the math goal, you may recall a couple of months ago when we were talking about interim goal 3A related to iReady Math. We had shared that as a system, we've struggled to really understand how iReady Math helps us move the work forward in the way that maybe we intended for it to when we initially adopted it. Differently than iReady Reading, the reading standards are cyclical and they spiral. And so we can take an assessment 3 times in reading throughout the year and actually measure progress towards end-of-year goals. Math is very different. You teach math in sort of discrete units, and to take an assessment in December on things that haven't even been taught yet is a little bit challenging for our teachers and our staff to understand how that is implicated. At the same time this year, you'll recall that we implemented a new quarterly assessment system for both reading and mathematics. And we have found, and you actually saw a report last board meeting related to the quarterly assessments in math and sort of how we were distinguishing how that was showing us progress that our students were making. We believe that those quarterly assessments do a very significant job. This is the first year we did it. We wanted to make sure. We think they do a good job of helping our teachers to measure progress or their students' progress in mathematics. And our research and student outcomes team will be doing some correlation studies this summer to confirm it. But as a result of that, because we believe that those quarterly assessments are a good indicator, what we're planning to do is pause the use of iReady Math next year. Our students will not take iReady Math, and then we will pull that iReady Math 3A, interim goal 3A, we will pull that off of the monitoring that we would do with all of you. So we think that the quarter exams and the grades and all the things, other components of board goal 3 will still allow us to collectively understand, are we making the progress that our students need to be making, and are we supporting them the way we need to? But by removing that iReady Math assessment, by pausing on that for next year, it's going to be a big relief valve, frankly, for our teachers and for our students. And we don't think it's going to detrimentally impact our ability to communicate with you all about progress we're making with board goal 3. So that's a pretty significant change, really related to the feedback that we received from our teachers, our administrators, that was reported up even from students.
One of the things that I thought you were going to bring up that comes up in our implementation meeting is changing some of the structure in which the information is reported to us. Obviously, we've been receiving our monitoring reports that have been heavy and dated with data, which is very important. But one of the things that we learned from Greg Klein is that there's other ways of reporting on some of the monitoring reports. Can you just provide a little bit of context to that as well?
Yeah, so if you look at the calendar itself, I'm sorry what page it is for you all. But if you look, for example, in February, the February 17th board meeting, the March 3rd board meeting, you'll see the little kind of slash mark dash, meaning that there isn't a report coming there. But what our intention is, and I think this is maybe, Mr. Miller, what you're referencing, our intention through the work and the implementation team meeting is, you'll recall back in January, February, we all went out to Orpeza and Renaissance, and you all got to see in live time the implementation of the strategies in support of Board Goal 1, specifically at Orpeza, Board Goals 1 and 2. And then you came back and we discussed that evening. And what Mr. Klein was sharing was that discussion, the going out and actually seeing instruction taking place related to our board goals, coming in and actually then having a conversation about that is monitoring. It's just monitoring around qualitative data versus the quantitative data that we normally are looking at in a monitoring report. So we are going to look for times, definitely like in those 2 months, for example, and we'll look for some other times as well where the board can have an opportunity to go out and experience instruction, as we did at Orpeza, and then come back. That discussion would count towards the monitoring of the goals as it relates to qualitative data.
And if it's all the same to you all, because of the missing pages in the board report, I'd like to move to making this an informational item and then moving for approval at the next board meeting.
Mr. Riel, would it be appropriate to add that to the consent calendar since we've already discussed it?
I think so, yes.
For next meetings.
For the next meeting?
Got it.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, then we'll do that. We will include the approval of the monitoring calendar for board goals and guardrails in the consent calendar of our next regularly scheduled board meeting. Okay. In which case, we will move to item 17.4, Student Outcome Focused Governance Implementation Timeline. And this is an item that is on every agenda, and then we give updates when appropriate. Does anybody have any updates to include? Member Miller?
So in regards to my community check-in, I have not rescheduled the date as of yet, but I will be doing a check-in with some of my community partners that I hoped to have present at the event that I host for my district, and so I hope to have an update for you at the June 17th board meeting.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to include?
Not to put Board Member Lopez on the spot, but just knowing that we do have technically on the calendar the August check-in for your district. No. So we'll, at least, and this is where we can have the discussion, my idea was that I didn't want to impose on your month. And so I know that it was part of the calendar for you to have yours in August. And so if you have a plan in place, I would hope that you'd still have the freedom to do so. And then I would work on planning mine autonomously without impeding on whatever plan you had scheduled.
Thank you. Then we will move to item 17.5, approval of amendment of 2025-2026 schedule of Board of Education meetings.
It's just a one sheet that says the description of it.
Right.
Can we get a copy? I don't have a 17.5 and I don't have that sheet either. Do you have it?
Does everybody have a 17.5?
I read it, so I'll look for it right now.
This is one that was added in between the Wednesday delivery packet and the Friday, and it was included.
We got it in the packet.
Yeah, it was included in the supplemental.
But in essence, Jeff, and here was my question based on what Leadership Associates said today. It was to schedule, we have already scheduled meetings in June, the recommendation to schedule an additional meeting for if we make a decision on the new superintendent for the official appointment of the
Yes.
superintendent.
That's correct.
And I was a little bit confused. That's why I was like, I got one question for legal. I thought what I heard Leadership Associates say today is that we couldn't do a meeting just for that.
No, what they indicated was, and which is why we put it on the agenda for today, is that it just needs to be done at a regularly scheduled meeting. You've set your regularly scheduled meetings back in April 9th of 2025 for this year. So what the agenda item does is just amend the schedule to include one additional meeting in June, so that it becomes a regularly scheduled meeting. It would always have 72 hours of notice to the public that it was going to be a meeting. So this is a little bit of belts and suspenders to modify the schedule that you created by adding one additional date. Right now, the suggestion is the date of, I think there are two that you can choose from between June 15th and June 18th. And the purpose of the additional meeting is that we've got a very busy meeting on the June 17th date with the full calendar, including the budget and the LCAP and a number of other items. That the idea is to add one additional regularly scheduled meeting for the purposes of really identifying a superintendent if you are able to make that choice.
I think we should add it to the June 17th or move it to the first July meeting that we have.
This is to officially vote
Yes.
on the new superintendent decision.
Yes. Correct.
The recommendation has been made because of the significance of what it is to have a superintendent named and to have a single item board meeting where that is the only item on the agenda, where you can introduce, you can, as they talked about, you could have family present, not in the midst of all of the other decisions that you'll make at the regularly scheduled meeting. So upon all of the thoughts that go into the decision and then the significance for the person as well, that if you have an additional meeting June 15th or 18th, it would only be for that item. So don't think 3-hour meeting. It would really be for the board to make that appointment public and to then introduce and acknowledge the new superintendent.
Got it. Did we already move for approval, or is this it? Oh, okay. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion.
So on the, I did see it and I did read it, but I can't find it. There weren't the specific dates. So can you?
There weren't specific dates, so we're proposing June 15th is a Monday or June 18th is a Thursday. And that is in line with having someone with a start date of July 1st for their contract. It gets you into that opportunity. Should you make a decision through your interview process and be ready for that, then it allows the person to start July 1st.
So I'm going to retract my motion. My motion will be move to approve scheduling this meeting on Monday, the 15th. And then we can have a discussion on whether that works or not for everybody.
Agreed. I second. Thank you.
I missed the first.
Yeah. So we retracted my motion because I didn't actually give it a date. I more
Did you
just
move?
approved. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I can't
yeah.
retract
But
your
I'm yeah. You can't retract my motion, but I'm going to retract it.
I'm going to retract Eric's motion, Jeff.
No.
Let's
but-
start over.
Right. The fact of the matter is we didn't give an actual date. And so his proposal is for the 15th, that Monday. I know that Monday works for me.
Okay, so just to clarify things, you spoke out of turn. You want to change your motion to...
Yes. I would like to change my... Thank you very much. You can't steal my motion. I like to change my motion to June 15th.
Right.
Right.
So now
I retracted a motion that I didn't make.
Yeah,
How was that?
Accepted.
And it worked because we are tired. It is late. So so to clarify, the motion on the floor is that we add a meeting for Monday, June 15th.
A regularly scheduled meeting.
A
which is
regularly
important.
scheduled.
Technically,
Well-
it's to amend your regularly scheduled meeting to add a meeting on June 15th, regularly scheduled meeting.
Do we need to have a meeting to schedule the meeting? Or
That's what you're doing today.
that's what we're doing today. Got it.
Second.
Second for Benitez.
Any further discussion? Member Lopez.
Just to confirm, the meeting would be at 5 o'clock.
Yes, it would be an evening meeting.
Just with one item.
Unless there may be one accompanying closed session item related to that. But it would be limited to 2 items, both.
But still at 5, whatever that is, at 5 o'clock. Yeah, okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes 5-0. We will add a meeting for Monday, June 15th.
Thank you. Sometimes it's not pretty.
A little fun, though. Okay, we are at report of board members. So, Member Miller, we will start with you.
Well, first off, I know I've already acknowledged this, but I'll acknowledge again. I appreciate all of the cards, thoughts, prayers for my family as we go through a time of transition. There's been a number of things occurring in our family, and so I've just been very, very appreciative of all the love that I've received from community members to folks at the board building, and so thanks again, everyone. There were a number of really important items today. One that was lightly discussed because there weren't any promotions, but it was a big one for our district, and that is the implementation of a new director for our Black Student Achievement Initiative and/or the Center of Black Student Success. I've always messed that term up a little bit here. But all things considered, I'm excited for the evolution of this team and the opportunity for Dr. Prelo to continue to support our district. She has been a huge leader for our students and I'm fumbling over my words here. It's getting late, but she has done a lot of work centered around our restorative justice work. And so I just want to thank her for her efforts thus far, and I look forward to being a big supporter for her in this work as she moves forward. As we continue to highlight some of the successes of our students of color, I wanted to give a special shout out to our superintendent for attending the Demo Chicks Women in STEM Signing Day, the inaugural Women in STEM Signing Day, where we had a little bit shorter than 30 young ladies who made a declaration of a future career in STEM. And so it was really cool to be a part of the celebratory event. We ate a lot of good food. There was a lot of confetti. But more importantly, we were looking at the next generation of astronauts, architects, engineers, and I couldn't be more excited for these young ladies and all of their future endeavors. I had an opportunity to attend the classified employee celebration. I know it has a fancier, I think it has a fancier title than that. I played in a couple of fun games. Juan and I tied in the free throw contest.
Someone told us with Dr. Baker, I think, tied with us.
Right, Dr. Baker tied with us. Yes.
She's either really, really good
or we're really, really bad, right? All in all, I think that you could tell from the smiles on all of our faces when we think about that day, it was a really, really good time. And so our classified employees, they are part of just the bones of what makes this district what it is. It's just a special place, man. I've told the story many a times of one of my really good childhood friends and Michael Ash and his dad, who was a custodian over at Bixby Elementary. And he was like, outside of the Beaver, he was like our mascot because he'd come out there and shoot hoops with us. And he was one who could check us when we were maybe being a little too silly and not focused. And so sometimes when we think about our classified employees, we don't think of them, or some folks haven't considered them as part of the academic component of our district, but they absolutely are. And so I just wanted to thank all parties involved who hosted that fantastic event, as it's one of my favorites. And then last but not least, as we talk about celebrations, I also got to attend the employee, what was the retirement doctoral yes
showcase.
yes is it really called showcase?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah, you call it showcase. I kind of like it. All things considered, that's also a really, really fun one for me. I get up there, I say a couple silly jokes, I celebrate a couple of our retirees, and I couldn't be more humbled at not only just the amount of years, but the amount of work. And you hear the stories, and you hear the success that they've had in our district. And so I'm just always filled with joy when attending that event. I also would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the change that it took from a district perspective, as we are a district of affirmation. And I love that. That is one of our values. But we also recognize how the amount of time and being celebratory was impacting our ability to do the work. And so to now transition into an event that is just 100% celebratory, and the intent is to reduce the amount of time that we're here. I'm looking at my clock, like saying, hey, we're here a little late today. But all things considered, it's just awesome that we have that event in place now. And once again, I want to just thank everybody involved for hosting a fantastic event, and thank you, Browning, for being a great host, as it's just one of those special moments. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Madam Chair, I will apologize that I have to leave after my report, but as soon as I get in my car, I'll put on the live stream and listen to my colleagues' reports. Echoing Mr. Miller, in such gratitude for our classified employees and for our retirees that have given 38 years of service to our district, to the doctoral recognition for the new doctors in the district, and of course to the awardees, including our Teacher of the Year awardee. I will share this. I am looking forward to Dr. Prelo advancing our work around Black student excellence in and with community, and reaffirm my and our board's commitment to Black student achievement, Black student excellence, and supporting Dr. Prelo in those efforts. So looking forward to advancing that work with my colleagues and the entire district team. Good night and good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Member Otto.
I will sign on to what Juan said about the Center for Black Student Excellence and the direction that it's going in, and I'm very looking forward to that as an addition to what it is that we do. I was at the Classified Day at the TRC as well, which was a great day and a great event, and it was just so inspiring to see the people that were named and eventually the Employee of the Year, but with lots of people that were nominated. So that was a great day. Last week I went to Wilson High School with Superintendent Baker and the principal, Miss Suzanne Caverly, and we got to see the new pool, which was different than I expected it to be, but great. And we also got to see a group of students doing music and getting ready for events that were coming up that soon, and graduation. So I'm very personally looking forward to graduation. I do Sato tomorrow, I think, and I do Wilson early next week, and we're trying to figure out a way to embarrass my grandson, who had his picture on the front page of a big track publication in the district because he had won the state championship last year, and he's going off to college. So it's been a good time, and I'm looking forward to graduation season. That's
Thank you, Member Lopez.
I'll be super brief. It's my daughter's birthday, so I like to get home to spend some time with her. So the school year is coming to an end, and I just want to thank our wonderful teachers, facilitators, and principals for their commitment to our students. And I hope that as summer approaches, you may find time to rest, recharge, and enjoy the things that bring you joy. Whether you plan on traveling or spending time with your family, working on personal projects, just take time to rest and enjoy the summer. And everyone have a happy summer.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Madison PTA for inviting me to their Donuts and Grown-Ups event. And this kind of replaces, is that the most inclusive thing you've ever heard? Because it used to be dads and donuts or moms and muffins, but then that would exclude, you know, certain kids. This is Donuts and Grown-Ups. And yeah, that's the Madison PTA with the, right, with the chair being Jennifer Dillon. Thank you so much. What I will add about the classified event was that the Employee of the Year, Mr. Eddie Simpson, his wife gave birth to their daughter Luna hours before he was awarded Employee of the Year. Just imagine that conversation in the hospital. Honey, I'll be right back. Anyhow, so congratulations. Yeah, incredible.
He's got the sweetest wife ever.
But he owes her, let's face it. Yeah, but he owes her. So congratulations to him, well deserved. And then, pardon me, I attended an event at the port celebrating education. And also we heard from Kyra, our Cabrillo student representative, who talked about the drone soccer. Drone soccer, Fort Lauderdale competition. Cabrillo takes first place. Sato, second and third place. Cabrillo, fourth place. Long Beach Unified, top 4 in the drone soccer competition. Yeah.
They said we can't come next year.
No, we're actually looking at hosting something. Anyhow, that was the Cabrillo Flying Jaguars, the Sky Jaguars. Also, the DLAC had their end of the year celebration. And I'm going to mention that because there was a student from Jordan, Stephanie Munoz. She came into the district as an English learner at the age of 14. She came in as a high school freshman, not knowing English. Fast forward to today, she is 17 years old, graduating from Jordan as a valedictorian. I don't know what could be more inspirational than that, more amazing. I mean, yeah. So incredible celebrations. TALB celebrated their end of the year event with, you know, retiring teachers, that sort of thing. So congratulations and thank you to the teachers who are retiring. Thank you for your service. And then, of course, the district recognition that has been mentioned. And then just this morning, there was a multicultural event at Riley Elementary in Lakewood, and there were performances from the TK all the way up to the 5th graders. They were great. They performed dances from the Dominican Republic, Cuba, different parts of Mexico. Incredible, very fun. And then lastly, I'll just say next week, actually this week, starts our high school graduations. And so as just a little message to our graduating high school students, it's a time to celebrate, but celebrate safely and responsibly, because you have the rest of your life in front of you. So be safe out there. Dr. Baker.
Well, I will continue about graduations. 2 things. One, we graduated our first class of students tonight while we were in the boardroom. CAMS has graduated. So Sorry to have had to miss that tonight. Mr. Samuels is there representing all of us. So congratulations, CAM's class of 2026. And just to make note that most of our graduations this year will be live streamed, so families can participate on our YouTube channel through live stream for almost all of them, not all of them, but check the schedule and our YouTube channel. Continuing, so we had the opportunity to have Dr. Blanchard, the new president at Cal State Long Beach, visit Sato today, just before the school year ended. We had our first College Promise meeting with him including him last week, and he really wanted to see Sato, so today he got a little tour and got to interact with seniors who were outside playing games and having brunch, and to see some of the specialized spaces and to talk to teachers. So he's a wonderful addition to our community. He's back in the Long Beach community, having worked at the Chancellor's office. So great for him to meet some of our students today. Also want to thank the Port of Long Beach. At the Celebrating Education event, about $400,000 of scholarships were given away. I don't know exactly how much went to our students, but suffice it to say, Alejandra Guitron and her team gave away a lot of money to junior college students, to Cal State Long Beach students, and to many of our scholars. So wonderful to be there for that. We had a wonderful event at Whittier Elementary that many of us here got to attend as well. That was a celebration, resources for families, cultural dance, similar to what we experienced at Riley this morning. So it's just fabulous to see our schools bring in their community and interact and provide resources and things for families all over our district. And then 12 of our students participated in the film festival that was sponsored by our Office of Pathways and Business Engagement over the weekend at MOLA. A wonderful opportunity for them to hear from an industry panel, including Helen Hernandez, who runs the Imagen Foundation and Awards, experts in the field, to listen to them talk about their work, and then 12 of them had films submitted in different categories that were honored, and that was wonderful. There were a number of us that were there as well. And then I'll end, and we heard student board member Walla talk about Black graduation. Not only were scholarships given away, a student from every one of our schools was recognized as an outstanding senior award. We had students leading many of the components of the celebration. There was a wonderful drum group and a dance troupe, and to look up into the stands and see hundreds of family members. I think we had over 400 graduating seniors participate, and the Jordan stands were just filled with families who were there to celebrate with their students. So wonderful. And then I'll end. This is also Pride Month, and while we celebrated in the Pride Parade at the end of May, this is officially Pride Month. And two things I'd like to share. One, that we had Rainbow Families recently speak at our Student Support Symposium. Thank you, Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama and team, sharing stories about their experience as families with diverse students in our district. And so just really want to thank them for the partnership and the voice they've brought to our community to help us to improve how LGBTQIA+ students experience our schools. They have been wonderful partners to us. Also, many schools have had celebrations of Pride. So as we think about Pride Month, I'll just read, reflecting, this is one of the ways that we, on our social media, recognize Pride Month, reflecting on the LGBTQIA+ community's contributions to democracy. It's vital to celebrate their history and resilience. Understanding LGBTQIA+ heritage promotes identity affirmation, diverse perspectives, and acknowledges their societal contribution. So thank you to the ways that schools are celebrating Pride Month with us. And with that, it is on to graduation season for us. Thank you.
Wow. Well, that concludes the business, the regular business of our meeting this evening, and without objection, we'll adjourn. And it's before 9 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us, and good night.